Chapter 1. Why in a forest infested by monsters, 2 miles away from Yi City in the Qingxian continent, located in Donghua Nation. This is too mean. This is too much. This is bullshit. Heavens above, is this your idea of a joke? A black ball of charcoal pointed at the sky and cursed at it as it stomped on the ground with a hand on its waist. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning flashed right in its direction. Even though the black ball of charcoal nimbly climbed onto the tree that was beside it, it was as if the lightning bolt had eyes and could see. It took a turn and struck the black ball of charcoal. The charcoal ball fell from the tree with a thud and lay on the ground in a dead faint. After the black ball of charcoal fainted, a person actually fell from the sky, landing on the ground dozens of feet away from it with a loud thud. The black ball of charcoal regained consciousness soon after. It was about to continue cursing when it remembered the lightning, which had just struck it. Annoyed, it softly muttered, "God, it wasn't my intention to curse you, but I, Yunjiao, have weathered through so many obstacles to go from a lowly beggar to an awesome Secret Service agent in the modern world. After secretly escaping from the organization, it's time for me to finally enjoy life. Why have I ended up transmigrating after being struck by lightning? For transmigrating is one thing, but why have I ended up in the body of this young dark-skinned woman? 23. Well, I don't care if she's dark, but why is she a piece of trash who can't even become a cultivator? 11. Yunjiao kept sighing as she grumbled. When she thought of the life story of the person who used to live in the body she currently possessed, she could not help but tear up. Really, why was her original persona so stupid that she just had to do something that was practically suicidal? The person's name was Yun Chujio, and she was 14 years old. Aside from being dark-skinned, she was also a piece of trash who could not become a cultivator. Moreover, she was abandoned at birth. She was left alone in a forest in Sunset Mountain right after she was born. Fortunately, the kind-hearted Yun Zhangqing and his wife found her. Yun Zhangqing and his wife, Lin Biyun, had been married for years, but they had not been blessed with a child of their own. Hence, they decided to adopt Yun Chujio and raise her in the Yun family. Yun Chujio got her name because she was found on the 9th day of the month, 1. Aside from that, she was also the 9th child in the family. 5. The Yun family was a renowned family of cultivators in Yi City, and Yun Zhangqing was the youngest son of the head of the household, Yun Xiaotian. Yun Zhangqing was extraordinarily talented, and Yun Xiaotian favored him very much. Yun Chujio pretty much lucked out when Yun Zhangqing adopted her. Unfortunately, when Yun Chujio was 5, it was discovered that she was a piece of trash who could not become a cultivator. Yun Chujio's misfortune did not end there. When she was 8, Yun Zhangqing and his wife went missing while they were carrying out a family mission. After that, the family lost all contact with them, and no one knew where they were. As time passed, everyone had no choice but to accept the fact that the couple had already died, and they built them tombs using the couple's personal belongings. Thus, the poor Yun Chujio was caught in a very awkward position in the Yun family. She was merely an adopted daughter, and she was a piece of trash who could not become a cultivator. Once she lost the protection of her adoptive parents, the sensitive Yun Chujio began to have negative conjectures of the Yun family's members. She felt that all of them looked down on her and wanted to chase her out of the family. That was when an asshole called by Moyu showed up. 2. He merely spoke some worthless, cringe-inducing words and gave her pastries that were not even delicious. However, her original naive persona was extremely touched. 1. It never occurred to her that Bai Moyu was the second young master of the Yun family's archenemy, the Bai family. What would the Yun family think of her once they saw her following Bai Moyu around all the time and even flirt with him? Even though Yun Xiaotian was furious when he learned about what Yun Jiao's original persona was doing, he merely warned and gave her some advice. The reason was that she was still young, and she had lived such a pitiful life. He did not even punish her. Yet, her original persona was a total moron, and she felt that Yun Xiaotian did that because he could not stand seeing her live a good life. Manipulated by Moyu, she did many things that harmed the Yun family. Today, the brainless Neanderthal did something so stupid that it would be a good enough reason for the Yun family to chase her out. Chapter 2. Big catch manipulated by Moyu, Yun Chujio. The imbecile had actually stolen the soul-gathering pill, a grade 3 medicinal pill that the Yun family obtained by going to great lengths and spending a great deal of money. Yun Xiaoyan actually wanted to use the soul-gathering pill to push himself to the 7th level in spirit refinement realm, but lo and behold, Yun Jio's original persona handed it to his archenemy on a silver platter. One could only imagine how pissed off the members of the Yun family were at Yun Chujio. She was a totally ungrateful bitch. 3. The worst thing was that today happened to be the death anniversary of Yun Zhangqing and his wife. Yun Jio's original persona, who definitely had a few screws loose in her head, could not have chosen a worse day to sneak into Yun Xiaoshen's study and steal the soul-gathering pill. After the empty-headed fool stole the soul-gathering pill, she headed to the periphery of the forest, which was infested with monsters. It was where Moyu had asked her to meet him, and she acted like a dog, wagging its tail at its owner for a bone. On her way, she kept fantasizing about how Moyu would take her by the hand and elope with her. Never had she expected Moyu to become a totally different person the moment he got his hands on the soul-gathering pill. After mocking her and telling her how worthless she was, the asshole kicked Yun Chujio to the ground. Being the unlucky sod she was, she hit her head on a rock and kicked the bucket. 2. Moyu did not even care that Yun Chujio was dead. He merely turned and made his way back to Yi City. There were plenty of monsters in the forest anyway, and Yun Chujio's body would make a great meal for them. Yun Jio, who decided that she might as well just call herself Yun Chujio from now on since she took over her body, could not believe what an idiot her original persona was. It was to the point that Yun Jio was rendered absolutely speechless by how bizarrely moronic she was. She actually did so many immoral things just for a scumbag. Truly, she was that stereotypical person who bit the hand that fed her. You're only 14, you know? You could have met hundreds and thousands of pretty boys in the future. Why were you in such a rush? You practically ended your own life by getting involved with an asshole. Seriously, I feel sorry for you, but I also hate your guts. 7. Yun Jio, now Yun Chujio, felt a whole slew of future troubles crushing her soul just by thinking of all the things she would have to face once she returned to the Yun family's residence. Whatever will be, will be. Let's just see what happens. Yun Chujio gave herself a pep talk and wiped the tears off her face with her sleeve. She then headed back to Yi City with her 2 short legs. However, after traveling just a short distance, her eyes suddenly lit up. Why is there someone lying face down on the ground? The person was probably dead because Yun Chujio could not hear his breathing at all. To be clear, she had an acute sense of hearing, so it was only logical that she would hear him if he was breathing. Although Yun Chujio used to be a Secret Service agent, she was a scaredy cat. Just to be safe, she picked up a pebble and threw it at the person. For the pebble landed on the person's back, and he showed no reaction whatsoever. Yun Chujio smiled. She was going to get rich. She could tell that the unlucky soul was rich from the way he was dressed. He had to be carrying plenty of good items. 5. Yun Chujio felt like a pile of gold and silver was waving at her. There was a spring in her step as she jogged over to the man. Hey, are you alive? Yun Chujio poked him with a tree branch. Still, he showed no reaction. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes and smiled from ear to ear as she examined the clothes worn by the presumably dead man. Heh, it appears that God has not forsaken me. Look at this, what a big catch he's given me. 1. His clothes were obviously made of expensive fabrics, so he had to be carrying heaps of treasure. Yun Chujio rolled him over, and she was immediately stunned. What the heck? He's a pretty boy. All the modern pretty male celebrities and handsome men can't even compare to him. This is what you call a supreme grade pretty boy. Oh my gosh, look at the shape of his face. Oh my gosh, his nose. 3. Yun Chujio was in a daze for quite a while due to how handsome the man was. She then sighed. What a waste. His good looks don't change the fact that he's dead. It's as they say, good-looking people really die early, huh? 2. It was not like Yun Chujio had never seen good-looking men in her life. She was only astounded for some time before she remembered that she wanted to rob the dead man, and she returned to her official task. Hey, cutie, I'm so sorry, but it isn't like you can bring your wealth with you to the afterlife, right? I'll do you a favor and safeguard your stuff on your behalf. After Yun Chujio finished speaking, she started digging all of the man's pockets. For yet, after she did so for a long time, she did not find a single coin, much less any gold or silver. Yun Chujio blew her top. Bloody hell! Why did you even give the false impression that you're rich? What's the point of being so good-looking when you're dirt poor? What a waste of good looks. For furious, Yun Chujio actually stripped the man naked. Chapter 3. I can't control my hand. This outfit of yours is pretty nice. My clothes happen to be dirty, so I'll bite the bullet and wear yours. I'm a kind person, so I only need your robe. In a flash, Yun Chujio took off the man's clothes. It was strange, but the wound at the back of Yun Chujio's head had miraculously recovered. There were still bloodstains and soil on her clothes, though. Hence, she took off her clothes and wore the man's attire instead. It's a little big, but whatever. It's better than wearing dirty clothes. The next second, however, lo and behold, his clothes actually shrank automatically. It was basically the right fit for her now. Yun Chujio was pleasantly surprised, and she happily said, "Wow. Who knew that this pretty boy's clothes would be such a treasure?" Yun Chujio thought about it for a moment and decided to wear her dirty robe over her new clothes. One should never show off their wealth, and she was worried that other people would have their eyes on the clothes. This pretty boy is holding something? Yun Chujio realized that the man was clutching something tightly with his right hand. Why would Yun Chujio let go of such an opportunity that could bring her a fortune? With great difficulty and great force, she was finally able to pry the man's hand off the item. She could not help but curse him internally. "You're a dead man, you know? Why would you have so much strength?" Then, she saw the item, and she could not help but be a little disappointed. It was just an ugly fruit. She brought it close to her nose to smell it. It was a little fragrant, but she could not help pursing her lips. It's obviously not a valuable fruit. Quality spirit fruits are supposed to have a strange and strong fragrance. Nevertheless, since Yun Chujio happened to be a little thirsty, she started to munch on the fruit. She was done eating it after a few seconds. She casually tossed the core of the fruit on the ground and was about to leave when her gaze coincidentally fell on the man's exquisite facial features. She did not know what possessed her, but she caressed his face. It felt pretty good to the touch. Heavens above, what the heck was she doing? While Yun Chujio was a tremendously shameless person, she blushed all of a sudden and muttered, "I'm not trying to cop a feel. I can't control my hand. Yeah, I'm just a person who can't control my hand. 3K pretty boy, thank you so much for your clothes. I'm just a young girl, and I don't have much strength, so I won't be digging a hole to bury you. I'm sure that some monsters will come and take care of your body soon. Well, I won't be seeing you again then." Yun Chujio finished speaking in a panic and practically left by scrambling away. Half an hour later, numerous black dots appeared in the sky and several men in black landed on the ground. Once they did, they were dumbfounded to discover the man on the ground. Just as they were beginning to feel super confused, the man on the ground opened his eyes abruptly. If Yun Chujio had seen him right then, she definitely would not have thought of him as a pretty boy. The reason was that right after the man opened his eyes, he emanated an extremely grim and murderous aura. He looked like he was the god of death whose mere presence could make a person tremble. His gaze fell upon the men in black, and the leader of the men reacted quickly. He turned with a loud whoosh and knelt down on the ground. The rest of the men in black immediately snapped out of their dazes and followed suit. They turned and knelt down. If one was to look carefully at them, one would notice that they were shivering a little because they were thinking, "My gosh, who in the world would have the audacity to commit the R-word against the Supreme Lord?" The Supreme Lord had rejected so many women who came from prestigious families and elites from various sections. They never thought that he would be robbed of his virginity in the Qingxian continent, which was not even a prominent place. The Supreme Lord was a serious germaphobe, and he would not even allow other people to come within 3 feet of him. But now, he had been given the R-word treatment on some desolate mountain in the Qingxian continent. Just what kind of woman was she? How could she have such suicidal guts? 2. Their supreme lord gritted his teeth in exasperation, but he was also in a daze for a while before he moved in a flash and disappeared. Chapter 4. Slap that thing to death and refine it into a medicinal pill. Dharma Protector Feng. Where did the Supreme Lord go? One of the men in black asked his leader tentatively. The leader of the men in black could not help but grimace. There's a waterfall not far from here. The Supreme Lord is definitely taking a bath. The men in black grimaced in unison, and one of them asked with a puzzled expression, theoretically, everyone in the Qingxian continent should be no match for the Supreme Lord, so how did this? That perverted woman must have taken advantage of the fact that the Supreme Lord was in danger and our asterisk pet him. One of the men in black said, fuming. How do you know that it was a woman? For all we know, it could have been a man. The rest of the men in black were taken aback when they heard that hypothesis. Oh God, our pure and untainted Supreme Lord may have been, are worded by a man? All of them immediately felt that they had committed a grave crime. How could they have allowed such a thing to happen to their Supreme Lord? They should be killed as a punishment for their sins. After a short while, Supreme Lord Di Biming returned, exuding a gloomy aura. The leader of the men in black, and Feng gulped. He then bit the bullet and asked, Supreme Lord, weren't you trying to get the exquisite sunset fruit? Why did? While I was executing sword control, a celestial lightning bolt suddenly appeared above me. Since my cultivation base is suppressed, I was caught off guard, and it hit me. Di Biming's expression was dark. Why did a celestial lightning bolt appear out of nowhere? Not to mention, it was a purple celestial lightning bolt. Those were incredibly powerful. It was just too strange. And Feng hunched his shoulders and tried to ask a question to get some information. Supreme Lord, did you manage to get the exquisite sunset fruit, then? Yes, Di Biming replied flatly. Feeling excited, and Feng said, that's great, Supreme Lord. As long as we refine the exquisite sunset fruit into a scorching yang pill, we'll be able to temporarily suppress the cold poison in your body. Di Biming snorted coldly, and the men felt as if they were about to freeze over. Someone else has eaten it? The men in black followed Di Biming's gaze and saw the core of a fruit lying nearby on the ground. Not a shred of flesh was left on it. Everyone immediately speculated on what had happened. Oh God! Not only did that gutsy pervert ** be the Supreme Lord, but whoever it was also ate the exquisite sunset fruit. Investigate this matter. Find that thing, kill it, and refine it into a medicinal pill, Di Biming hissed through gritted teeth. Feng clenched his teeth, braced himself, and asked, Supreme Lord, is that thing a male or female? Are there any special characteristics that we should take note of? It should be a woman, a lowly, shameless, obscene, greedy, and perverted one. She even stole my snow silk brocade shirt. That's all I know. Figure out the rest on your own. Don't return unless you've found her. When Di Biming recalled what Yun Chujio had done to him, his expression became tremendously dark. Even though he was practically deaf and blind at that time, he had not lost his sense of touch. That thing even dared to strip me naked. That's the one thing I cannot forgive her for the most. She deserves to die. Even though Di Biming had washed himself multiple times under the waterfall, he still felt weird all over. Feng and the rest of the men in black were dumbfounded when they heard what Di Biming said. It should be a woman? Could it be that there's actually a possibility that the Supreme Lord was really, truly, *ped by a man? Forget it. I will personally slap that thing to death and refine it into a medicinal pill. Despite fuming over what had happened, Di Biming was actually a tiny bit curious. Who on earth would dare do such a thing to me? How impudent! Yun Chujio had no idea that she had become the target of a murderous man. Right then, the moron was cursing her original persona. She wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Her original persona's reputation was so bad that it was off the charts. After she left the forest that was infested with monsters, she encountered a few groups of people. No matter how she begged them, no one agreed to give her a lift. All of them looked at Yun Chujio the way people looked at piles of dog poop. Their expressions were full of disdain. Scram trash? That's right. It's one thing that you're an ugly piece of garbage, but you just had to follow young Master Moyu around. Shameless. The Yun family is super unlucky. They actually raised such an ungrateful, traitorous bitch. I heard that it's the death anniversary of Yun Zhangqing and his wife today. Why isn't Yun Chujio worshipping her dead parents at home? What on earth is she doing here? She's obviously here to disturb young Master Moyu again. How shameless! The miserable Yun Chujio had no choice but to walk back to Yi City. Chapter 5. The pretty boy's arrival. Yun Chujio stood before the main door of the Yun family's home. When one of the guards saw that Yun Chujio was back, he still went forward and bowed before her even though he secretly looked down on the young woman. Ninth young mistress, you're back. Yeah, I'm back. Thanks for your hard work. Take this money and have some tea. It pained Yun Chujio to do so, but she dug out a small chunk of silver and tossed it to the two guards. The two guards were so shocked that their mouths were wide open. Even after Yun Chujio had left for a long time, it did not seem like they would be closing their mouths anytime soon. Am I seeing things? Has the ninth young mistress gone mad? She usually puts on airs as if she's superior to everyone. So why is she suddenly being so friendly today? She even gave us silver? Yun Chujio was about to sneak back to her room when a teenage girl grabbed her and dragged her to a corner. Yun Chujio, how could you be so shameless to come here? You're really an ungrateful, traitorous bitch. Grandpa's treated you so well, but you repaid him by stealing the soul-gathering pill? It's your father's death anniversary today, for God's sake, and You actually did something like that? Are you a pig? No, you're worse than one. You better hand me the soul-gathering pill now, or else, not even Grandpa's going to forgive you. Yun Chujio hunched her shoulders. The fuming teenage girl before her was wearing a pearl-white outfit, and she looked like a gorgeous rose with thorns. The teenage girl was Yun Chujio's cousin, who was also her eldest uncle's daughter. Fifth sister. I'll return to my room to get changed first. After that, I'll return the pill to Grandpa immediately. Obviously, Yun Chujio would not dare tell Yun Chu that the soul-gathering pill had been given to Bai Moyu. The latter would probably swallow her whole if she did so. After Yun Chujio finished speaking, she sped back to her room, ignoring Yun Chu, who continued rebuking her with a hiss. Oh my goodness! I'm going to have a heart attack. She's already so fierce without me telling her that the pill's already been given to Bai Moyu? If I really tell her the truth, she'll probably skin me alive. What the heck should I do now? Yun Chujio entered her room and plopped onto a chair. Yun Chujio, oh Yun Chujio, tell me, are you an idiot or what? Are you a friggin' idiot? Take a look at your residence. Take a look at the furniture in your room. Everything's so friggin' exquisite. The Yun family treated you so well, and you actually repaid them by doing such a heartless thing. Now I have to clean up your mess. While Yun Chujio was grumbling, she suddenly felt a chill run down her spine, and all of the hairs on her body stood up. She sensed danger. She sensed a murderous aura. There was a loud bang, and Yun Chujio watched as the room became a pile of debris. The entire residence shook as if it would collapse at any moment. What's going on? Is this an earthquake, or are the Yun family members here to beat me up together? Just as Yun Chujio was baffled by what had just occurred, her body was suddenly frozen, and she was unable to move at all. Then, with a whoosh, she was sucked into the courtyard by an invisible force. Yun Chujio was shoved violently onto the ground with a thud, face down. She was totally bewildered. Even though she knew that the people in that time and space cultivated spiritual energy or whatever it was called, this was something straight out of a fantasy novel. Someone snorted coldly, and Yun Chujio was able to move again. She got back on her feet and took a good look at the person before her. When she realized who he was, she was so frightened that her legs became jelly, and she plopped back down on the ground. Yun Chujio put her palms together. Spirits of the sky, spirits of the earth, please protect me. Pretty boy. No, I mean handsome boy, I know that I've stolen your clothes, But I wasn't the one who killed you. I mean, your hatred should be directed to your enemy alone, you know? You should exact revenge on the one who killed you instead. You know what? In the future, on the 1st and 15th day of every month, I'll burn some joss paper for you. One handsome boy, I can tell from the way you look that you were a rich, prestigious, forgiving and kind person when you were alive. You wouldn't want to lower yourself to the same level as a pitiful person like me, would you? My life is a real sob story, and if you were to hear it, you would definitely tear up. Just take a look at me. Not only was I abandoned at birth, but I'm ugly too. But that's not all. I'm also a piece of trash who can't even become a cultivator. And that's not all. I'm also stupid, and I got cheated by a scumbag. I only borrowed your clothes from you because I was at my wit's end. If you want it back, I'll take it off for you immediately. Chapter 6, Prince Charming, I love you. As Yun Chujio spoke, she slowly started to take her clothes off. Her head was lowered, and a cunning glint flashed briefly in her eyes. Of course, she did not believe in nonsense like ghosts and zombies. She was now certain that this person was not dead at the time she robbed him. Why was she so careless? She should have examined him properly. What was she supposed to do now? The pretty boy was unbelievably powerful, and she was not capable of fighting him off at all. Hence, she had no choice but to use whatever means at her disposal to solve the problem at hand. Di Baiming furrowed his eyebrows. His original plan was to slap her to death right away. He never expected Yun Chujio to be such a chatterbox. With his prestige and power, no one had ever dared to say so much to his face. Coupled with the fact that Yun Chujio's face was extremely animated, Di Baiming fell into a daze. Due to that, he had yet to kill her. At that point, Yun Chujio had already taken off the dirty robe she was wearing. She then had no choice but to slowly take off Di Baiming's clothes. She was wearing an undershirt anyway, so she did not have to worry about flashing her B****BS. When Di Baiming noticed that Yun Chujio had stopped talking, he raised his hand and prepared to kill Yun Chujio. However, Yun Chujio could see what Di Baiming was doing from the corner of her eye, and she shivered internally. This pretty boy is going to kill me. What do I do now? In desperation, Yun Chujio decided to dash forward and hug Di Baiming's thigh. Prince Charming, I know what's going on now. You didn't die. You must be here to rescue me from my pitiful life, right? I actually lied to you earlier. I actually fell in love with you the moment I saw you back there. 5. I stole your clothes because I am enamored with you. I just love you too much. I thought that you were dead, and I was so sad that I could only console myself by stealing your clothes. I plan to look at it whenever I miss you. When I'm wearing your clothes, I feel like you're right beside me. Sob, I know what I did was wrong. But can't you find it in your heart to forgive me for the love that I have for you, please? My pink, fluffy, young heart beats only for you. And Feng and the rest of the men in black were hiding nearby, and they could barely hold themselves back from laughing. The dark-skinned girl was amazing at coming up with the wildest stories. Her heart was pink, fluffy, and young? It would be more appropriate for her to say that she had the heart of a pervert. Di Baiming had never seen anything like this. All his past admirers were shy, and they would stutter bashfully and fearfully whenever they saw him. No one had ever confessed their love to Di Baiming in such a straightforward manner. Due to Yun Chujio's passionate confession, not only did Di Baiming fail to notice that Yun Chujio had been hugging his thigh for a period of time, but for some bizarre, unknown reason, he also felt a little pleased. 5. Yet, when Di Baiming thought about how Yun Chujio had molested him right before she left, his expression turned sullen. He raised his hand again. Yun Chujio had decided to go all out to save her own life. After all, in her eyes, her shamelessness could reach the size of the galaxy just so that she could survive. One Prince Charming. I did all that out of love and only love. I really couldn't resist your charm. That's why I did all of those things because I couldn't control myself. I was just overwhelmed by my love for you. Prince Charming, love is not a sin. But if you want to kill me, please go ahead. I don't mind being killed by you and becoming a lowly ghost. Even if I die, I'll die happy. Come on, Prince Charming, slap me hard. I'll die with no regrets. 2. Yunchujio raised her dark, petite face. Even though she appeared ugly, there was a blissful expression on her face. A tear rolled quietly down her cheek. 2. It could have been because of Yunchujio's words, or it could have also been because of that one single teardrop, but D. Baiming slowly lowered his hand. 1. D. Baiming furrowed his eyebrows. It would be quite a waste to slap this little thing to death. What she just said did make quite a bit of sense. Ahem. After all, he was indeed an outstanding man, was he not? She had not committed a crime just by loving him. 6. However, if he did not refine her into a medicinal pill, what should he do about the cold poison inside his body? 1. The exquisite sunset fruit was supposed to be used to suppress the cold poison inside my body. When Yunchujio heard D. Baiming's voice, she could not help but curse internally. Wow, the world is so unfair. Not only is this pretty boy handsome, but his voice is also music to the ears. But I've already eaten it. It's not like I can vomit it out for you. Yunchujio said pitifully. That isn't a difficult problem to solve. It will also work if I refine you into a medicinal pill, D. Baiming said calmly, as if it was the most normal thing in the world to do. Chapter 7. Pretty boy, we are eternal enemies. It took great effort for Yunchujio to suppress the storm raging in her heart. Motherfucker. I'm a human. A living human being. I'm not an herb. 4. Refine me into a medicinal pill? How about you refine my foot? 1. Fuck you. If only I were strong enough to defeat you, I would have beaten you up so badly that your face looks like you're a ***. 2. Yunchujio cursed him internally for a short while before she put on a sorry expression and pitifully said, Prince Charming, I'm just a dark-skinned girl with internal organs and stuff. If you refine me into a medicinal pill, the end product will definitely be very ugly and disgusting. You'll definitely have trouble swallowing it, don't you think so? 2. As expected, D. Baiming scowled and sized Yunchujio up in disdain. There's no helping it. The exquisite sunset fruit is extremely rare. Worse comes to worst, I can just rinse my mouth with some water. It's not unendurable. Yunchujio killed D. Baiming in her mind over and over again. Motherfucking bastard. He'll have to die to be refined into a medicinal pill, and you have the audacity to complain about something that I have to sacrifice my life to make. It's a shame that I can't defeat you, or I would have strangled you to death. 1. She quickly thought about the situation at hand. What should I do now? It looks like the stupid fruit is extremely important to this pretty boy. If I had known this beforehand, I wouldn't have eaten it. It didn't even taste good. Even carrots are tastier. 2. D. Baiming raised his hand again. Even though the little thing with dark skin was rather interesting, suppressing the cold poison within his body was more important. Yunchujio could practically sense the shadow of death descending on her. She hated the feeling of being on a chopping board, waiting for other people to cut her up. She wanted to become stronger. She had to become stronger. The more dangerous the situation was, the more Yunchujio was able to stay calm. Her mind raced to come up with a solution. All of a sudden, she bit her index finger until it bled. Prince Charming, drink my blood. My blood will definitely be able to suppress the poison inside your body, and it will certainly be more effective than a medicinal pill. As the situation called for it, Yunchu decided to just hastily shove her finger into D. Baiming's mouth. The taste of Yunchujio's blood was extremely tantalizing to D. Baiming, and he started sucking on her finger without realizing it. 10. The men in black who were hiding in the shadows were bewildered when they saw that. Supreme Lord, what about your germophobia? Supreme Lord, what about your decency? 1. Didn't you plan to kill the dark-skinned girl with a slap and refine her into a medicinal pill? It's one thing that you let the dark-skinned girl hug your thigh and cry for a long time, but now you're sucking her finger? 1. Yunchujio's face was deathly pale. What the fuck? Is this pretty boy a vampire? He's not willing to stop even after drinking so much of my blood. Am I going to die from blood loss? 6. A long while later, D. Baiming finally let go of Yunchujio's hand with a satisfied expression. He did not expect her blood to be even more effective than medicinal pills refined from exquisite sunset fruits. If he were to drink her blood periodically, the cold poison inside his body should be eliminated completely. For Di Baiming was incredibly fond of Yun Chujio right now. He had tried all means and methods, but he never managed to eliminate all of the cold poison inside his body. It never occurred to him that he would find the solution on this trip to the Qingxian continent. Dark-skinned thing, you've come up with a pretty good idea. What do you want as a reward? Yun Chujio saw that Di Baiming was flashing a slight smile, and she immediately became vigilant. When someone began to show kindness for no apparent reason, he had to be up to something evil. Why was this pretty boy suddenly being so nice? Prince Charming, this is what I should do. I don't want any reward. Yun Chujio held her breath so that a red tint would show on her dark face. When Di Baiming saw the enamored expression on Yun Chujio's face, he felt a little pleased with himself. It seemed that the dark-skinned thing was not lying to him. She was truly in love with him. Even though it was impossible for him to fall in love with such a dark-skinned being, he decided to help her out because of her good taste in men. Come over here. Di Baiming glanced at Yun Chujio. While Yun Chujio was suspicious of what he would do, she smiled fondly and went up to Di Baiming like a stupidly loyal dog, wagging its tail at its owner while waiting for orders to serve him. Prince Charming, is there anything you need? Di Baiming slapped Yun Chujio's chest, and she passed out. As her consciousness slipped away, there was only one thought in her mind, motherfucker. Pretty boy, we are eternal enemies. I won't forgive you even if I die and become a ghost. What? Chapter 8. Young maid. After Di Baiming slapped Yun Chujio's chest, a pure white handkerchief appeared in his hand, seemingly out of the blue. He violently rubbed Yun Chujio's dark and skinny wrist with it a few times before he touched her hand. He made it look like he was touching a pile of poop while he was doing all that. There was a dumbfounded expression on the faces of Enfeng and the other men in black. They were now beginning to wonder whether there were a few screws loose in their Supreme Lord's head. A few moments ago, he was sucking that dark-skinned girl's finger, but in the blink of an eye, he started to be disgusted by the fact that she was dirty. After a short while, Di Baiming furrowed his eyebrows. He seemed to be a little confused about something. Enfeng, stay here and protect this dark-skinned thing in secret. As long as her life isn't in danger, you don't have to do anything. Di Baiming simply tossed the handkerchief on the ground and instantly disappeared with the rest of the men in black. Enfeng was left dumbfounded and alone in the place. Supreme Lord, what do you mean? You want me to stay in the Qingxian continent, which is in the middle of nowhere, to protect this dark-skinned girl? Don't you think that you're wasting my talent on a petty job? And what's the use of this dark-skinned girl? Why on earth would you want to protect her? Since you want to protect her, why did you smack her so hard that she fainted? Plus, I don't have to do anything as long as her life isn't in danger? What exactly did you mean by that? That was when a girl ran into the courtyard. And Enfeng immediately hid. Young mistress, are you okay? The girl, a young maid, quickly called out when she saw Yun Chujio lying on the ground. Yun Chujio opened her eyes in a daze. I'm not dead yet? That pretty boy didn't kill me? Yun Chujio sized the young maid up. Her original persona had chased away all the maids in her residence so that she could secretly meet up with Bai Moyu. She only allowed Chun Yu, an obedient maid who also happened to be a scaredy cat, stay. The other reason her original persona let the maid stay was that her Yu sounded the same as the Yu in Bai Moyu's name. Seriously, that girl was obsessed with Bai Moyu. Chun Yu was retrieving some hot water from the boiler room earlier. When she saw Yun Chujio lying like a dead fish on the ground after she returned to the courtyard, she panicked immediately. I'm okay. Did you hear anything just now? Yun Chujio looked around. Her door was shattered, and they must have caused a huge ruckus just now, so why did no one come to check things out? Young mistress. Why is the door shattered? It was only then that Chun Yu realized that the door had been reduced to pieces. Yun Chujio immediately thought that pretty boy had probably used some divine art to insulate the sounds that they had produced earlier. God, this pretty boy is so powerful that he's unfathomable. Just who the heck is he? It's an old door. It probably broke due to years of wear and tear as well as disrepair. Just ask someone to install a new door, Yun Chujio said nonchalantly. Chunyu gaped like a fish. A door would not shatter just because of disrepair, would it? But she had always been very frightened of Yun Chujio's original persona, so she did not dare comment. After all, Yun Chujio's original persona often took out her anger on Chunyu when she was in a bad mood. Young mistress, what's with the clothes you're wearing? Chunyu looked suspiciously at the clothes on the ground and then at the snow silk brocade shirt that Yun Chujio was wearing. Yun Chujio was about to say something when she heard footsteps. Oh my, someone is here. Yun Chujio nimbly grabbed the dirty clothes on the ground and put them on. Huh, where did this handkerchief come from? Yun Chujio picked up the handkerchief and suddenly recalled the burning pain she felt when Di Biming rubbed her wrist with it. Her eyes flashed dangerously, and she cursed Di Biming over and over again in her heart. This pretty boy is a huge perv. He was totally fine with wrapping his mouth around my finger and sucking my blood, and he has the galls to pretend to be a germaphobe. However, why did that pretty boy press her wrist? Was he checking if she was dead? Yun Chujio noticed that a weird-looking fish was embroidered at one of the handkerchief's corners. Her eyes darkened, and she put away the handkerchief. It was proof of the pretty boy's crime. One day, when she became mighty and powerful, she would definitely torture the pretty boy 1,000 times. She would make sure that he knelt down and submitted to her. Just as Yun Chujio's imagination ran wild, someone spoke respectfully outside the door. Ninth young mistress, the head of the household has asked you to proceed to his study. Chapter 9. Find me a rope. Yun Chujio turned and saw an old man standing outside the courtyard. She dug into her original persona's memory and found out that it was Butler Ji. Yun Xiaotian trusted him quite a lot. Even though there was a respectful expression on Butler Ji's face, Yun Chujio could see the fury and disdain hidden beneath that facade. She could not help but laugh wryly in her heart. It seemed that she had a long way to go before she could clear her name. Butler Ji, please tell my grandfather that I'll go over once I get changed. Yun Chujio bowed slightly and said politely. Butler Ji was so shocked that he almost tripped. Is the ninth young mistress possessed by a ghost? Why is she suddenly so polite? His heart then immediately sank. Oh no. She must be acting this way because she feels guilty. Is the soul-gathering pill already gone because of her? Just as Butler Ji was feeling surprised and bewildered, Yun Chujio cleared her throat a few times and said a little awkwardly, Butler Ji, my room door broke down due to disrepair. Please do me a favor and arrange for a new one to be installed? Of course, ninth young mistress. It has been raining quite a lot lately, so it's probably worn down because of the humidity. They'll just ask someone to repair it. I don't think that it can be fixed. Butler Ji, you can take a look at it yourself. Yun Chujio gestured for Butler Ji to come in from the entrance of the courtyard. Butler Ji entered the courtyard with great suspicion in his heart, and he was so shocked that his eyeballs almost popped out of his eye sockets when he saw the sight before him. Goodness, the door was totally fine before this. How did it break down into bits in the blink of an eye? Could someone be kind enough to provide me an answer? The door is made of hemlock wood, for God's sake. Hemlock wood is almost as sturdy as iron weapons. Who exactly could be so powerful that they could reduce this door to pieces? Ninth young mistress, what on earth happened? It was already like this when I returned. I don't know what happened either. It's probably due to years of disrepair. Don't you think so, Chunyu? Yun Chujio lied with a straight face. Chunyu nodded subconsciously because the naive girl did not know who had destroyed the door either. Butler Ji grabbed a handful of the shattered pieces of wood and ran off at lightning speed as if he was being chased by a rabid dog. Yun Chujio pursed her lips and softly muttered, why is he still getting so easily worked up at his age? Even our Chunyu is more level-headed than him. There was a blush on Chunyu's petite face. The young mistress seemed different, but she really liked how her young mistress was acting right now. The pair entered the bedroom, and Yun Chujio intended to take off her dirty clothes so that she could change into a new outfit. The moment she opened her wardrobe, she could not help feeling bewildered. Well, would you look at that? There are only black clothes in the wardrobe. It was no wonder that Chunyu looked at her like she had seen a ghost when she saw her wearing a silver and white robe just now. Yun Chujio dug into her original persona's memories and found the reason behind this. It was no other than the fact that Bai Moyu had told her she looked the best in black. What the heck? You're already dark enough, yet you still wear black. You'll just look like a black ball of charcoal. That scumbag was obviously mocking you, and you actually believed him? You moron. Yun Chujio spent a long time searching before she found a pearl white robe. That was the uniform for the Yun family's disciples. Her original persona had a great dislike for that robe, which was why it had been chucked into the corner of the wardrobe. Imbecile. Fucking idiot who doesn't know what's good for her. Yun Chujio cursed as she put on the pearl white robe. Yun Chujio looked at her reflection in the bronze mirror. When she took a good look at her dark complexion and her face, she noticed that her facial features were pretty exquisite. Yun Chujio was rather pleased with the sight. At the end of the day, she did not look too ugly. Chunyu stood next to her, and even though the young maid found it weird that her young mistress was muttering to herself, she did not dare comment on it. She merely stood obediently by the side. Chunyu, go and find me a rope. A cunning glint flashed in Yun Chujio's eyes. Young mistress, you mustn't take your own life. If you die, your humble servant will join you in the afterlife. At that point, Chunyu could no longer care about her fear of Yun Chujio. She just cried out in alarm. What do you mean, take my own life? Geez, I'm not trying to hang myself. Hurry up and find me a rope. Yun Chujio glared at Chunyu, and the young maid got so scared that she shrank back. She then left obediently to look for a rope. Yun Chujio rubbed her chin. It appeared that her original persona was not completely useless. She had trained the young maid to be pretty obedient. Chapter 10. Flying into a rage soon, Chunyu found her a rope. The young maid trembled like a leaf as she handed the rope to Yun Chujio. Chunyu made up her mind right then and there. If the young mistress tries to hang herself, I will stop her no matter what. Yun Chujio took the rope. She then went to one of the trees in the courtyard and broke off one of the thinner tree branches. After that, she tied the tree branch to her back using the rope. For young mistress, what are you doing? Chunyun was extremely worried. Could it be that something had horribly traumatized her young mistress and she had gone crazy? 1. Keep a watchful eye on my room. I'm going to see my grandpa, Yun Chujio said. She then headed to Yun Xiaoshan's study with a spring in her step. All the servants in the Yun family's home were confused and bewildered when they saw how weird Yun Chujio's getup was. Doesn't the 9th young mistress only wear black? Why is she wearing the disciples' white uniform today? Has she gone mad? Why is there a tree branch on her back? It's young Master Chanking's death anniversary today. Could it be that the young mistress received some kind of a shock because of it? Cut it out. Forgive me for being rude, but this 9th young mistress of ours spends all of her time chasing after Bai Moyu. She probably doesn't even remember what day it is. I remember that on young Master Chanking's previous death anniversary, she didn't put much effort into the prayers or shed a single tear. Right after that, she headed to a restaurant on a date with Bai Moyu. What an ungrateful piece of crap. Shoo, don't be so loud. If she hears it, she'll complain to the head of the household again. If that happens, well, definitely get punished. She's the reason why all the branch members of the Yun family have serious problems with the head of the household. But our head of the household is a kind man. He should just expel people like her out of the Yun family. Yun Chujio had a tremendously acute sense of hearing, and she could hear everyone's low murmurs. As a result, she staggered a little. Bloody hell, why did I transmigrate into the body of such a friggin' weirdo? 3. After analyzing what the servants said and what her original persona did before she died, Yun Chujio concluded that Yun Xiaotian had hidden the fact that the soul-gathering pill was stolen. Hence, Yun Chujio became quite fond of this newfound grandpa of hers whom she had not met yet. Considering the fact that he could treat such an ungrateful prat so well, Yun Xiaotian had to be a kind and loving man who valued his family and friends a lot. One, it might also possibly be because Yun Xiaotian loved his youngest son very much, and he felt sorry that Yun Changqing had died at such a young age. As he could no longer show love to his deceased son, he gave all of his love to Yun Chujio instead. It was such a shame that the moronic twat, who also happened to be her original persona, did not appreciate that love. As Yun Chujio was thinking things over with her head lowered, someone stood in her way. Wow, is there going to be a blue moon tonight? Yun Chujio, it's so rare to see you not loitering around with Bai Moyu. Hehe, why aren't you wearing one of those crow-like robes of yours? What's with the tree branch on your back? Could it be that this is one of Bai Moya's fetishes? Ha! The one speaking was Yun Chuer, who was the second eldest grandchild in the family. He was 19 this year, and he often bullied Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes discreetly. There were truly all kinds of people in the world, and no one should be surprised even when they met the weirdest, most outlandish sort of people, considering how big the world was. Hence, someone like Yun Chuer existed. Yun Chuer bullied her original persona quite a lot, and it was one of the reasons why her original persona constantly thought badly of people in the Yun family and obstinately refused to change her perspective of them. Second brother, I'm in a hurry to look for Grandpa right now. Can you please make way? Yun Chujio said flatly. Yun Chuer was dumbfounded for a moment. Yun Chujio usually looked extremely glum and sullen, like the whole world was against her. Why did she look so calm today? I don't mind making way for you, but I'm a little short on cash these days. Give me 100 taels of silver. Yun Chuer said with a dark smile. Even though Yun Chujio was an orphan girl, that old man, Yun Xiaotian, never deprived her of money. 100 taels? Why don't you go and rob someone? Go away. Get out of my sight. Yun Chujio only loved two things in life, food and money. The moment she heard that Yun Chuer wanted money, she immediately flew into a rage like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Yun Chuer was shocked by the fierce and grotesque expression on Yun Chujio's face. He had been extorting money from Yun Chujio since day one, so why was she suddenly so worked up about it today? Yun Chuer could not help but feel embarrassed and angry. Yun Chujio, I'm trying to be nice to you here, so you better appreciate it. You're just an ungrateful brat living off of us while secretly helping our enemies. If you don't hand over the silver, trust me, I'm going to redecorate your face with my fist. Chapter 11. Why don't you go and exist somewhere else and not in front of me, trash? Redecorate my face? I'm already pretty enough. How exactly are you going to redecorate my face and improve on perfection? 3. Yun Chujio, how dare you talk back to me? Trust me, you won't want to leave the head of household's residence from now on, because if you do, I'll make sure that you suffer. Yun Chuer said ruthlessly. He did not dare bully Yun Chujio in the head of household's residence, as Yun Xiaotian would not let him off lightly if he were to find out. Screw you. Why don't you show me what you've got and make me suffer now? You're all talk and no action. Look at how stupid your face is. Are you sure that your name is Yun Chuer and not Yun Moron? You're a total imbecile. Nimwit. A hint of anger flashed past Yun Chujio's eyes. Bastard. How dare he try to extort money from me? I must make sure that he returns all the money he stole in the past. Never had Yun Chuer expected that Yun Chujio had the guts to scold him. When he saw how the servants around them were gossiping about what was happening, he immediately became embarrassed and furious. All right, Yun Chujio. Since you do not know how to respect your elders, I'll teach you a lesson or two. Yun Chuer extended his hand and was about to slap Yun Chujio across the face. All the servants in the head of household's residence became so frightened that they shut their eyes. Oh no! The second young master is in the second level of spirit refinement realm. The 9th young mistress will definitely be sent flying from that blow. But against their expectations, Yun Chujio nimbly hopped to the side and dodged Yun Chuer's hand. Yun Chuer, are you blind or something? I'm just standing here, so why aren't you able to hit me? Oh my, why are you so stupid? Yun Chujio hopped around like a little bunny, and Yun Chuer could not even slap the fabric of her robe even after trying for a long time. All the servants widened their eyes. Holy cow! Even though weird things happened all the time, there were a great deal of strange occurrences today. Since when was the 9th young mistress so nimble? Yun Chujio was pleased with herself. As it seemed, being in the 2nd level of spirit refinement realm was actually, well, nothing. If that were the case, she would not hold back anymore. Why don't you go and exist somewhere else instead of in front of me, trash? Yun Chujio found an opening and kicked Yun Chuer's stomach. Yun Chuer fell on his back in a most violent, graceless spectacle. Yun Chujio furrowed her eyebrows. The body that she was occupying right now was too weak. If she had her body from the modern era, she could have kicked Yun Chuer so hard that he was flung more than hundreds of feet away. However, she was only able to fling Yun Chuer dozens of meters away this time. One Yun Chuer froze for a moment before he started cursing. You rotten and heartless slut. How dare you kick me? Just wait and see how I'm going to make you suffer. The moment Yun Chuer rose to his feet, Yun Chujio jumped forward and gave him multiple kicks. She kicked and kicked and kicked. Yun Chujio became addicted to kicking Yun Chuer, and she muttered as she kicked, kick, kick, kick the ball. Kick it very high. Kick it over the garden wall, kick it to the sky. For in the beginning, Yun Chuer was still cursing Yun Chujio loudly, but by the end of it, he could do nothing but cry in pain. Some of those servants who were watching rubbed their eyes, and some even pinched themselves for a reality check. Holy cow, since when did the 9th young mistress become so powerful? After Yun Chujio had enough fun, she snatched Yun Chuer's money pouch over. She opened it and pursed her lips. Wow, you're seriously poor, aren't you? In giving you 1 month to return the 1,000 taels of silver you extorted from me, or else, I'll beat you up every single time I see you. But Yun Chuer was built tough. Aside from this, he also possessed spiritual energy. At that moment, he had already recovered from the blows, and he said fiercely, Yun Chujio, you little slut. I'll never forgive you. Oh wow, it seems like I was being too nice. Well, don't blame me for being cruel this time. Yun Chujio smiled slyly at Yun Chuer and poked Yun Chuer's body a few times. Immediately after that, Yun Chuer started shouting in pain like a pig being slaughtered. Chapter 12. Grandpa, why don't you just kill me? Yun Chujio looked at her handiwork with a satisfied expression. Great, there were no signs of injuries on the other party's face at all. Even if this brat were to complain to others that he was beaten up, there would be no proof at all. And now that Yun Chuer was rolling on the ground in pain, his actions caused the mark of her shoes on his robe to no longer be visible. Yun Chujio looked around at the servants who were watching them, and those horrified servants furiously gazed at the floor. If anyone asks you about this, just say that my second brother fell down because his eyesight failed him. Do you hear me? If any of you dare to spout bullshit, I'll make sure that my shadowless kick will kiss your face. That's so cruel. That's so shameless. You're obviously the one who kicked him, okay? Is it really okay for us to lie like that? But these servants did not want to get kissed by Yun Chujio's feet. Moreover, they were working in the head of household's residence. Hence, even though Yun Chujio was being a bitch, they had no choice but to take her side. When Yun Chujio saw the servants nodding, she flashed a satisfied smile. She grabbed a few pieces of silver from Yun Chuer's money pouch and tossed the money to the servants. While she did this, she had to endure the metaphorical pain in her heart, because she had to give up on money. Here you go, some money to soothe your frightened souls. Also, if any of you dare to curse me behind my back again in the future, I'll make sure to teach you a lesson with my shadowless kick. After Yun Chujio finished speaking, she left with a spring in her steps and a tree branch behind her back. As the servants looked at Yun Chuer, who was screaming in pain, and at the silver they were holding, they immediately made a decision. No. The second young master fell down. Where are all the servants in the second mistress' residence? Hurry up and come here. The second young master had a bad fall. Yun Chuer was so furious when he heard those heartless servants that he fainted right away. 4 Yun Chuer's lackeys soon rushed over. Yun Chuer was planning to get some money from Yun Chujio to have a feast at a brothel, so he had asked these lackeys of his to leave him alone. These lackeys were glad to do so and had some free time, and they were about to return to the second mistress' residence. When the servants from the head of household's residence saw that the second mistress' servants were here, they quickly said, "Oh, goodness." The second young master suddenly fell as he was walking. "Hurry up and take a look." Yeah, could it be that the second young master has had a little too much to drink? Hurry up, bring him back and get a physician to check on him. Yun Chuer's servants were confused and puzzled. However, there were no signs of injury on Yun Chuer's body, and he did not look like he was beaten up. Moreover, who the H*ck in the Yun family's home would dare beat up the second young master? He must have tripped and fallen on his own. After Yun Chuer was carried away by his servants, all the servants in the head of the household's residence covered their mouths and snickered. The ninth young mistress was seriously wicked. There were not any signs of injury on the second young master's body, and even if he were to tell other people that he was beaten up by Yun Chujio after he woke up, no one would believe him. Was the ninth young mistress not renowned for being a piece of trash? Why was she suddenly so powerful today? She actually beat the second young master, who was in the second level of spirit refinement realm. How strange. It seemed that the ninth young mistress was not such a despicable person after all. She gave them more money than all the other young mistresses and young masters in the household. Yun Chujio had no idea that she had made some progress in clearing her name. Right now, she was standing outside Yun Xiaoshan's study and craning her head to look inside. Someone in the study cleared his throat, and a deep and sonorous voice rang out, "Young Jio, is that you? Come in." Yun Chujio spent some time getting herself into a despondent mood. She thought about what a tragedy it was that she had transmigrated into the past, and tears rolled down her cheeks. Her eyes were already red to begin with because she was also crying when she was begging Di Biming to spare her life just now, so she cut a very pathetic sight. "Grandpa, Grandpa, I know that I have made a mistake. Grandpa, I am here to offer you my sincerest apologies and to ask you to punish me. Bai Moyu tricked me into giving him the soul-gathering pill, and he almost took my life. Now, I've finally seen his true colors. Sob, Grandpa, I was wrong. Why don't you just kill me? I can't even be considered as a human anymore. I've been so ungrateful. Truly, I've betrayed your kindness. Grandpa, after you beat me to death, please bury me beside the tombs containing my dad and mom's clothes. Even though I am unable to repay the Yun family for all the kindness everyone had given me in this life by raising me and taking care of me, I will definitely atone for my sins upon reincarnation even if I have to become a cow or a horse. Sob. I really regret what I have done. Sob. Grandpa, go ahead and beat me to death. Could you be so kind as to kill me with one slap? Please don't prolong my suffering." Yun Chujio's tiny body was trembling like a leaf as she cried, and she looked like she was about to pass out at any moment. Chapter 13. Possessed a rare treasure. Yun Xiaotian had originally been infuriated because of the news, but once he thought about it, he let out a bark of laughter. Young Jio had always been a slow girl who was clumsy with her words. How did she suddenly become so intelligent? By asking him to beat her to death, she was obviously trying to get an advantage by making concessions. Yun Xiaotian sized Yun Chujio up carefully. No, he was not mistaken. This was definitely young Jio. Why was she suddenly so clever? Could it be that she was hurt so horribly by Moyu that she was suddenly enlightened? When Yun Chujio saw that Yun Xiaotian was looking at her without saying anything, she removed the tree branch from her back and lifted it with both hands. Grandpa, I know that you're reluctant to slap me to death because you love me. Why don't you use this tree branch to hit me a few times so that I would learn a lesson, then? One Yun Xiaotian took the tree branch Yun Chujio handed her, and his eyelid twitched. This brat. Are you kidding me? This tree branch is even thinner than noodles. I'll probably snap the moment it touches your skin. 5. Tell me how Bai Moyu deceived you in detail. Yun Xiaoyan tossed the tree branch on the ground and asked with a dark expression. Yun Chujio heaved an internal sigh of relief. At least she had been spared from getting beaten up. She immediately told the whole truth of what had happened to her grandfather. Of course, in the process, She used various literary devices and added plenty of descriptions so that she sounded like a clueless and idiotic teenage girl who was deceived by a heinous asshole. Her narration was an extremely lively and realistic one. Yun Chujio talked so much that her mouth turned dry. When she saw that Yun Xiaotian was deep in thought, the glutton actually crawled over to the tea table to pour herself a cup of tea. She gulped it down and saw some pastries on the table. She picked up a piece and started munching on it. Yun Xiaotian slapped the table. Yang Jiao. Yun Chujio almost choked on the pastry in her mouth. She quickly crawled back to her original position and knelt down in an obedient manner. Grandpa, I promise you that I'll definitely change and become a better person. I'll get you so many soul-unleashing pills that you get to eat them like you do with candy, let alone soul-gathering pills. Yun Xiaotian felt so aggravated by her words that he actually cackled because he just did not know how to react anymore. This young Jiao, she really knows how to run her mouth. Soul-unleashing pills are grade 4 medicinal pills. There were only 3 grade 3 medicinal pill refiners in Donghua Nation, and grade 4 medicinal pill refiners who were capable of refining soul-unleashing pills were even fewer. Yun Xiaotian glanced at the shards on his study table and asked solemnly, Young Jiao, what on earth happened to the door of your residence? Yun Chujio breathed an internal sigh of relief. It was great that her grandfather was in the mood to ask about her door. It seemed that he would not give her a harsh punishment because of what happened with the soul-gathering pill. Grandpa, after I returned from the monster forest, I sat alone in my residence and thought about what a heinous thing I've done. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. And then I was sucked to the courtyard by some huge and invisible force. And then? What happened? Yun Xiaotian craned his neck and asked with a solemn expression. And then nothing happened and I fainted. Yun Chujio bared her teeth. Yun Xiaotian glared at Yun Chujio fiercely. Even though young Jiao had become cleverer and livelier, she had also become even better at ticking people off. Grandpa, I'm telling nothing but the truth. If you don't believe me, you can ask my maid about it. I was lying on the ground of the courtyard like a pitiful dead fish when she found me. The best way to tell a lie was by mixing it with the truth, and Yun Chujio was a master at telling lies. One as expected, Yun Xiaotian believed in what she said. He furrowed his eyebrows tightly. He could not imagine how high a person's spiritual energy must be to be able to reduce hemlock wood to shards. Could it be that some powerful person had set his sights on the Yun family? And since Yun Chujio was a clever fox of a human being, it only took her one look at Yun Xiaoshan's expression for her to know what was on his mind. Grandpa, it must have been some celestial being who happened to be in the area. Our family doesn't possess the kind of rare treasure that would make someone set his sight on us, right? And it can't be one of our enemies, because I would have beaten him to death. Yun Xiaotian narrowed his eyes for one brief moment, but even though it only happened for a fleeting moment, Yun Chujio noticed it. Her imagination immediately ran wild. Could it be that the Yun family really possessed a rare treasure? Chapter 14 diverted his attention. Even though Yun Chujio managed to maintain a calm expression, she could feel the devil inside her surfacing. What rare treasure did the Yun family possess, to the point that the man who was now her grandfather was so anxious about it? The angel sitting on Yun Chujio's right shoulder and the demon sitting on her left shoulder argued profusely. The little angel's wings were flapping as she said with a serious expression, Young Jiao, you're a good and virtuous person. You have moral values. How could you think about stealing the Yun family's rare treasure? This isn't the right thing to do. For the little demon who had 2 red horns on her head flashed a sly smile. Young Jiao, things exist so that they can be used. You're part of the Yun family too, aren't you? Why can't you be the owner of the rare treasure? Only an intelligent person like you are capable of putting it to good use. Yun Chujio gritted her teeth and decided that she would give up on stealing the Yun family's rare treasure due to the fact that they had raised her original persona, even though this would cause her considerable pain in her heart to do so. Yun Chujio consoled herself that even if she could not get this particular treasure, she could get other treasures. One day, when she became a powerful girl, the first thing she would do would be to look for rare treasures. And her first stop would be a certain asshole Bey's house. Yun Xiaotian was lost in his thoughts, and he did not seem to be in the mood to inflict any punishment on Yun Chujio. He waved dismissively. Young Jio, I've made sure that other people don't know what you've done this time. I hope that you were telling me the whole truth just now. You can take your leave now. Yun Chujio breathed a massive sigh of relief, and her heart was no longer hanging on the thread. It seemed that she achieved her goal of distracting her grandfather by talking about her broken door. Well, the pretty boy had at least done one good deed. The cunning girl rose, and just as she was about to flee, Butler Ji entered the study. Butler Ji brought his mouth close to Yun Xiaoshen's ears and muttered. Yun Chujio strained her ears to listen, and she heard a few words such as second young master and beaten up. Yun Xiaoshen's expression changed as rapidly as the weather. He gave Yun Chujio a profound look. Young Jio, did you beat up Chuer? Yun Chujio squeezed her face into an extremely innocent expression and blinked a few times at Yun Xiaoyun. Grandpa, second brother extorts me all the time, and I can't take it anymore. Don't worry, I beat him up very skillfully. There are no signs of injury at all. Yun Xiaoshen's expression froze. That's not the main point, okay? 3. But Yun Chuer is quite the brat, and he does deserve to be beaten up. And it's great that there were no signs of injury, then my second brother won't have the excuse to come and give me a headache. Why are there no signs of injury? How did you manage to do that? Yun Chujio had successfully diverted Yun Xiaoshen's attention by now. Grandpa, I didn't hit his face. I made sure to only hit parts of his body with plenty of flesh. Moreover, I even pressed a few of his acupuncture points, so he definitely suffered a lot. Even if a physician checks on him, he won't figure out what's wrong with Yun Chuer. Yun Chujio flashed a devious smile. You pressed his acupuncture points? What technique did you use? Yun Xiaotian was tremendously shocked. Yun Chujio started spinning the wildest tales with an extremely serious expression. Grandpa, you know that I don't have spiritual energy, right? So, after some research, I found out a technique where you can press other people's acupuncture points and cause them pain. As for the effect, it's pretty good. Young Jio, what did you grab during your zhuozhou? Grandpa, I was just a little kid at that time. Why would I remember? But the thing I grabbed was a little bit strange. Mom told me before that I grabbed a seed. Tears flowed out of Yun Chujio's eyes like a broken dam, and she started wailing like banshee. Sob, Mom, I miss you so much. Sob, Dad, I miss you very much too. Why are you two so cruel? Why did you leave me alone? Yun Xiaotian did not know what to do. He was indeed suspecting that someone else was impersonating Yun Chujio, as she had changed a great deal overnight. But the young Jio before him even knew about what she had grabbed during her zhuozhou. She was definitely not a fake. Sob. Grandpa, I know that you're shocked at how much I've changed. It's because that scumbag Bai pushed me, and I hit my head on a rock. After I regained consciousness, my mind became so much clearer, and I was able to think about a lot of things that I never had been able to before. Grandpa, I'll be an extremely filial granddaughter from now onward. Yun Chujio shamelessly gave Yun Xiaoyun a look so adoring and respectful that she looked like she was gazing at the stars in the sky. Chapter 15. Eavesdrop. Yun Xiaoyun felt like his old heart was blessed. Young Jio had always caused him a great deal of worry, but she was also very mentally sensitive and fragile. Even though she sounded like she had a few loose screws in her head right now, it was much better than before. 5. Yun Xiaotian nodded at Yun Chujio. I sure hope so. You can take your leave first. And don't tell anyone about what happened with your door and the soul-gathering pill. Yun Chujio knew that her newfound grandpa had accepted her explanation about things. She bade farewell to him and left with a spring in her steps. Oldly, do you think that what young Jio said is true? Yun Xiaonan watched Yun Chujio leave by practically skipping out of the room, and his lips twitched, almost forming a smile. Master, regardless of whether it's true or not, the way the 9th young mistress is acting right now is a lot better than how she was before. But the problem is that the soul-gathering pill has fallen into the Bai family's hands. If Bai Peng manages to break into the 7th level of spirit refinement realm after consuming it, the Yun family would be in trouble. Butler Ji closed the door and said with a glum expression. Yun Xiaotian let out a soft sigh. Even if Bai Peng manages to do that, he will need at least half a year for it. We can slowly think of a plan before that time arrives. Right now, what I'm worried about the most isn't the Bai family. Master, are you worried that someone powerful has set his sights on the Yun family? That's right. The door of young Jio's residence was obviously blown up by a powerful person. He must at least be a spirit being. He might even be a legendary spirit emperor. Yun Xiaoyan told Butler Ji about everything that Yun Chujio had told him. Butler Ji was Yun Xiaoshan's right-hand man, and Yun Xiaotian often discussed most things with him. Most people in Qingxian continent were capable of cultivating spiritual energy, and their level of cultivation was divided into 3 realms: Spirit Refinement Realm, Spirit Being Realm, and Spirit Emperor Realm. Each realm was further divided into 9 levels, and the difference between realms was as great as night and day. Yun Xiaoshan's level of cultivation was only at the 6th level of Spirit Refinement Realm. Of course he was tremendously worried. Butler Ji thought about it and said, Master, what the 9th young mistress said makes sense. If the person is really here for that thing, he would have done more than shatter the door. Aside from that, if he were really a powerful person, he would have come for you instead. One Yun Xiaotian nodded. I too think that I'm worrying too much. You're right, some powerful person who happened to be in the area might just have been causing some mischief. Send someone to keep a watch on the Bai family. Sai, I've actually prepared that soul-gathering pill for young Jio. She has not been able to guide spiritual energy into her body even after so much time has passed, and I was thinking that a soul-gathering pill might help with her. Who would have thought? Sai, a certain person was squatting down under the window, and she trembled. A stunned expression bloomed on her small and dark face. That person was no one other than Yun Chujio, who had returned after taking her leave just now. Even though this crazy girl was no longer lusting after the rare treasure the Yun family possessed, she could not get it out of her mind, and she was rather curious about it. And since she had the guts of a lion, after leaving the head of household's residence, she returned and hid under the window to eavesdrop on their conversation. It was daytime, and never in their wildest imagination had Yun Xiaotian as well as Butler Ji expected anyone to eavesdrop on them. Moreover, Yun Chujio did not possess spiritual power. Hence, they did not notice her presence. Yun Chujio felt tears welling up in her eyes. Her newfound grandpa was so friggin' nice to her original persona even though her original persona was such an ungrateful prat. It's your fault for having such poor judgment. Well, your loss, my gain. From now onwards, your grandpa is mine. And he'll be the one protecting the Yun family too. Just as Yun Chujio was feeling sentimental, a child's voice rang out. Yun Chujio, why are you sneaking around? A young boy who was around 7 or 8 years old glared furiously at Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio felt incredibly annoyed with herself. She had been so busy eavesdropping that she did not notice the little boy approaching. Naturally, the 2 people in the room noticed her after the boy pointed her presence out. Yun Chujio flashed an awkward smile at Yun Xiaotian. Grandpa's, it's pretty breezy here, so I'm just chillin'. One Yun Xiaotian found himself absolutely speechless. The little boy rolled his eyes and said angrily, Grandpa, Yun Chujio must be doing something bad. A bad person like this should be chased out of the Yun family. Quiet. She's your 9th sister. If I hear you saying something like this again, I won't let you off the hook easily. Yun Xiaotian said in great displeasure. The little boy burned with fury, and there were tears in his eyes. Grandpa, she's just an ungrateful traitor. Why are you always taking her side? Because she's part of the Yun family, and her name is Yun Chujio. She's your 9th sister. Yun Xiaotian said in a stern voice. Chapter 16. Am I such a bad person? Yun Chujio's heart trembled violently. Part of the Yun family? Even though she always had a smile on her face, deep down inside, she was a cold-hearted person. Yun Chi, her best friend in her past life, often said that she was a person who could stab someone else with a smile. However, everything Yun Xiaotian said and did had undoubtedly tugged at the most vulnerable part of her heart. Part of the Yun family? From now onwards, I, Yun Chujio, have a family too. The little boy pouted and said as he sobbed, I don't have such a bad elder sister. After he finished speaking, he glared fiercely at Yun Chujio. He then ran into the distance. Yun Chujio rubbed her chin awkwardly. Grandpa, what 10th said isn't wrong. I've done many bad things in the past indeed. But from now on, I'll make sure that everyone changes their views about me. Well, Grandpa, I'll go and bond with 10th. See you later. Yun Chujio said before she quickly ran away with her short legs. Fleeing was a no-brainer because her newfound grandfather would have definitely questioned why she was eavesdropping and punished her. Yun Xiaotian opened and closed his mouth. He was about to say something, but Yun Chujio had already run as fast as a rabbit and disappeared into the distance. Yun Chujio ran for a short while and noticed that the little boy was kicking a tree while wiping away his tears. Hey brat, the person you want to kick is here. Come on, why don't you kick me? Yun Chujio flashed a malicious smile, and she looked like the big bad wolf in Red Riding Hood. The little boy turned and shot Yun Chujio a fierce look. Yun Chujio. Of course, I know what evil plot you're cooking up. You want me to kick you so that you can complain to Grandpa. I won't let you have your way. After the little boy finished speaking, he sped off like a bullet train. Yun Chujio touched her nose. Am I such a bad person? Why would I need to complain to my newfound grandpa? I merely want to seize this good opportunity to teach you a lesson or two. After Yun Chujio walked for a while, Yun Chua stood in her way. Yun Chua grabbed her by the hand and dragged her to her room like she was nothing but a feather. Yun Chujio felt exasperated. Yun Chua was only 3 years older than her. Why was Yun Chua so curvaceous, while she looked like a black hemp stem? 3. Have you returned the soul-gathering pill to Grandpa? Yun Chua asked fiercely the moment she entered her room. Yun Chujio nodded furiously, so much so that she looked like a chicken eating grain from the ground. 5th sister, I know that I've done something wrong. Please go ahead and slap me across the face. You can even kick me too. I was blind and dumb in the past, and even though you cared so much about me, I treated it as if it was nothing. Chapter 17. Please, call me a genius, 5th sister, yum. Dish is so delicious. Yummy. Yun Chujio's mouth was stuffed full of food, and she was gobbling down everything on the table. Yun Chu looked at Yun Chujio in a daze. How many days had young Jio been deprived of food? Could it be that the people working in the main kitchen were secretly abusing young Jio? However, that was not likely. No matter how much they despised young Jio, they would not dare abuse her openly. By the time Yun Chu regained her senses, all the plates and bowls on the table were empty. Yun Chujio was salivating as she stared at the bowl of rice before Yun Chu. 5th sister, since I've been crying so much today, I feel a bit hungrier than usual, Yun Chujio said with a pitiful expression. Yun Chu sighed, and she had no choice but to ask her maid to get more food from the main kitchen. Yun Chujio's tummy was finally full. She leaned against her chair in satisfaction and burped. She was feeling really happy because she had found the one good thing about transmigration at last. The food there was super tasty and 100% organic as well as preservative-free. Yun Chujio used to be a beggar when she was young, and she cared a lot about food and money. After she discovered how good the food there was and how she could eat to her heart's content, she was instantly no longer indignant and pissed about the fact that she had transmigrated. Yun Chujio continued to chat with Yun Chu for a while. She then walked back to her room in a leisurely manner as she rubbed her tummy. The young maid, Chun Yu, was waiting for Yun Chujio to come back, and she looked as eager as a puppy expecting its master's return. When she saw that Yun Chujio had escaped unscathed, she happily went up to serve her. Butler Li was extremely efficient, and he had already sent someone to install a new door for Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio took a comfortable long, hot bath and started to plan for the future as she lay in bed. According to what she had heard from her newfound grandfather today, this body of hers was not devoid of a spirit root. However, her original persona had trouble guiding spiritual energy into her body. Why was that so? In this time and space where the strong ruled, it would be troublesome for her to not be able to cultivate. There was that problem with the Bai family too. If she was not able to cultivate, how was she going to protect the Yun family? She would probably even have trouble against that scumbag Bai. She heard that the scumbag was already at the 4th level of spirit refinement realm. The more Yun Chujio thought about it, the antsier she became. She decided to sit up with her legs crossed so that she could meditate. She then attempted to guide spiritual energy into her body according to the incantation stored in her original persona's memory. Soon, Yun Chujio perceived that 5 light balls were floating around her. They were supposedly light balls that represented the 5 main elements: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Come, babies. Come to mommy. Yun Chujio muttered nonstop. As expected, the 5 tiny balls of light fought to go nearer to Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio was delighted. It seemed that her original persona was merely an idiot who did not know how to cultivate. From now on, she would no longer be known as a piece of trash. Instead, she would ask people to call her a genius. Just as Yun Chujio was feeling pleased with herself and thinking about how bright her future was, the 5 tiny light balls suddenly escaped and floated away, scattering like frightened sheep. Reality shattered Yun Chujio's beautiful fantasies mercilessly. Yun Chujio gritted her teeth. She refused to accept it as the truth and decided to try again. Yun Chujio began to cultivate according to the incantation again. Just like before, the 5 tiny balls of light approached her. Unfortunately, in the end, all her hard work was in vain again. The 5 balls of light refused to enter Yun Chujio's body no matter what. Yun Chujio was a very determined and persistent person. Even though she failed time and time again, she gritted her teeth and kept trying. After failing for almost 100 times, Yun Chujio noticed that a small purple light ball was slowly taking the lead among the light balls and gradually entering her body. Purple? Yun Chujio was dumbfounded. Gold represented metal, green represented wood, white represented water, red represented fire, and yellow represented earth. Never in her life had she ever heard of a purple element. Chapter 18. Meeting Scumbag Bai for the first time. Even though Yun Chujio was a little dumbfounded, as consolation, she told herself that having a purple light ball was better than being a useless piece of trash. Courtesy of her persistence and diligence, Yun Chujio was able to guide more than 20 tiny purple light balls into her body that night. Yun Chujio stretched and yawned. How strange. She did not feel tired at all, although she had no sleep the entire night. Was this one of the benefits of cultivation? Chun Yu had already prepared water for her to wash her face. After washing up, Yun Chujio happily ordered Chun Yu, "Make sure to get me more food for breakfast. If you can't carry all that food by yourself, ask the servants from the kitchen to help out. You hear me? I'm hungry, super hungry." When Chun Yu heard that Yun Chujio was hungry, she immediately scurried to the kitchen to get breakfast. Yun Chujio nodded in satisfaction as she stared after Chun Yu. Since the girl was so enthusiastic when it came to getting her food, Yun Chujio decided that she would keep this maid of hers safe from now on. Yun Chujio finished her breakfast like a greedy pig. She then sat on the floor with her legs crossed and started cultivating. Chun Yu was tremendously shocked. Isn't the young mistress incapable of cultivation? What on earth is she doing? Yet, the young maid did not dare question her young mistress. She had no choice but to stand guard vigilantly beside Yun Chujio as she was worried that something would happen to the latter. Yun Chujio practiced cultivation for 2 hours, and she managed to guide around 10 more small purple balls of light into her body. Following that, Yun Chujio stretched and yawned. She then rubbed her empty tummy and decided to explore this new world. "Chun Yu, I'm heading out. Take good care of my chamber." Young mistress, what were you doing just now? "I was cultivating, duh. Did I look like I was sleeping?" Chun Yu stared after Yun Chujio in a daze. Cultivation? The young mistress is capable of cultivation now? Yet, no matter how I look at it, it seemed like she was taking a nap. Who on earth yawns and stretches after they're done cultivating? The young mistress must have been sleeping just now and was too embarrassed to admit to it. But why did she not sleep in her room? One Yunchujio did not know that the imagination of her stupidly adorable young maid was running wild. She walked out of the Yun family's residence in style and searched through her original persona's memories. She decided to head to Immortal Gathering Tower, which was the biggest restaurant in Yi City. Once Yunchujio arrived at Immortal Gathering Tower, everyone who saw her rolled their eyes. She sat down at a table beside the window on the northern side of the building and ordered herself a scrumptious meal. As she waited for the dishes to arrive, Yunchujio leaned on her chair in a leisurely manner and looked at the glorious scenery outside. There was a lotus pond outside the window, and the lotuses were in full bloom. It was a soothing sight indeed. However, why would Yunchujio care about the lotuses? The glutton was wondering when the lotus seeds in the pods would become edible. She then started to think about crunchy and delectable lotus roots. Oh, gosh, the thought of the lotus-related food items was making her salivate. While Yunchujio was fantasizing about food, the people in the restaurant began pointing at her and gossiping about her. They did not bother about trying to be discreet about their gossip despite the fact that she was within earshot. Isn't that the biggest piece of trash and the most rabid lovesick maniac in Yi City, Yunchujio? One tisk, she's so young, yet she's trodden on the wrong path. She just had to go chasing after a grown man the whole time. How immoral and embarrassing. I know, right? More importantly, Bai Moyu is the Yun family's archenemy. What an ingrate. Something's not right, though. Don't you think so? Doesn't she follow young Master Moyu around all the time? Why is she alone in Immortal Gathering Tower today? Who knows? For all we know, she could be waiting for young Master Moyu. One as if to validate what everyone had just said, 3 people appeared at the doorway. Little Sister Yen ran, ladies first. Immortal Gathering Tower is the biggest restaurant in Yi City, and it is famous for its steamed ice fish with golden flakes. The one speaking was Bai Moyu. He was handsome and gentlemanly. The young woman walking in the middle merely nodded a little. When everyone caught sight of the young woman, they gasped in unison. She was such a gorgeous woman. Chapter 19. A rose meeting an eyesore. The young woman was wearing a white gauze dress, and there was nothing on the dress other than a red plum blossom that was embroidered at its hem. She was beautiful and otherworldly like an immortal from another realm. However, her expression was an arrogant one, which made other people a little afraid of her. There was another young woman beside her who was clad in pink. She was also pretty, but her style of dressing was a little poor in taste compared with the young woman in white. Overall, she was not quite as beautiful as the former. Someone recognized the young woman in pink as Bai Moru, the 4th young mistress of the Bai family. Big Sister Yen ran, let's get a private room on the 1st floor. It's so noisy here on the ground floor, and it's full of lowly people. Bai Moru looked around disdainfully at the people on the ground floor who were sitting at their individual tables. Everyone could not help but feel annoyed when they heard Bai Moru's words, but they did not dare utter a single word. After all, Bai Moru was not in the same league as Yunchujio. Bai Moru was Bai Moya's birth sister, and the head of the Bai family. Bai Peng was rather fond of her. Bai Moyu furrowed his eyebrows a little. Stop with the nonsense. Even if you said it to make sure that little Sister Yen Ran can have a good time, you're not allowed to speak that way. Everyone, my younger sister has not watched her words. Please accept my apology. Bai Moyu bowed slightly as he spoke. When everyone saw that, not only were they not annoyed anymore, but they started to praise Bai Moyu for being a humble and polite person. Noticing their reaction, Bai Moyu pretended to be nonchalant despite being pleased with himself. He flashed a slight smile and said, Little Sister Yen Ran, although what Ruer said earlier was impolite, it's true that I'll be quieter upstairs. Why don't we get a private room on the 1st floor? The young woman in white had something else in mind, however. She pointed at a table beside the window. That's quite a good place to sit. We can see the lotus pond outside the window from there. Bai Moyu saw where she was pointing at and froze. Everyone immediately became fired up as the spirit of gossip crackled in their hearts. This is going to be fun. Their food? Who the heck would be bothered about food right now? The what? Who the heck would be in the mood to drink right now? One by Moya's new lover had just come face to face with his ex-lover. The difference between them was practically like that between a rose and a pile of crap. Yun Chujio was not blind, and she naturally saw the three of them too. However, she was not in the mood to care about them at all as she was too busy shoving food down her throat. I see why Immortal Gathering Tower is such a popular restaurant. Their dishes are really tasty. Not only do they look beautiful, but they also taste amazing. 5 stars. Michelin 5 stars. Even though Bai Moyu was shocked when he saw Yun Chujio, he was not bothered by her presence whatsoever. A piece of trash would remain as such whether she was dead or alive. She would not pose any threat to him at all. Moreover, she might come in handy in the future if he kept her by his side. To Bai Moyu, Yun Chujio was a total idiot. He believed that she was at his beck and call. He just needed to wave at her for her to come running to him like a dog wagging its tail before a bone. She would not even complain. As Bai Moyu thought of that, he reached out to Yun Chujio. Young Jio, why are you here? You're done eating, aren't you? Since you're done, why don't you hurry up and go home? I'll go and see you another day, Bai Moya said. He was certain that Yun Chujio would leave and let them have the table. In fact, she would do so gleefully. He then said to the woman in white, Little sister Yen Ran, please take a seat. This is a friend of mine. She'll be leaving now, so we can sit here. The lotus pond outside the window is truly very beautiful. The young woman in white nodded in satisfaction, and she walked toward Yun Chujio's seat. Yet things did not seem quite right. Yun Chujio was still gobbling down the food before her without any intention of leaving. Young Jio. Bai Moyu raised his voice and said in annoyance. Yun Chujio continued to shove food into her mouth just as she did before. She did not even spare Bai Moyu a glance. Yun Chujio, my elder brother is talking to you. Don't tell me that you've gone deaf. Bai Moru had always looked down on Yun Chujio. If Bai Moyu had not mentioned that Yun Chujio could come in handy, she would have never bothered to talk with her at all. It was only then that Yun Chujio looked away from her food and at the 3 people in front of her. Are you talking to me? There was a puzzled expression on Yun Chujio's face. Chapter 20. Who do you think you are? Nonsense. Of course, he's talking to you. Big sister Yen Ran wants to sit here, so you better hurry up and make way. Bai Moru glared at Yun Chujio in disdain. Not only was the bitch ugly, but she was also a piece of trash. How dare she even think about being with her elder brother? Truly, her head had to be full of clouds for her to think about reaching something above her station. I'll naturally take my leave when I'm done eating, but right now, I'm still enjoying my food. While Yun Chujio spoke, she grabbed a slice of fish with her chopsticks and ate it. As the fish triggered her taste buds, its flavor caused her face to morph into an obviously exaggerated expression of delight. Bai Moru immediately flew into a rage. Just as she was about to drag Yun Chujio out of her chair, Bai Moyu gestured at her to calm down with his eyes. Bai Moru snorted coldly and kept quiet. After all, she was quite terrified of this elder brother of hers. Bai Moyu furrowed his eyebrows and went up to Yun Chujio. Young Jio, stop making a fuss. Leave now or else. What are you going to do? And stop calling me by my pet name. It's reserved for my family members. Who do you think you are? From now on, please call me Yun Chujio or Miss Yun. You can also call me Immortal Yun. The corners of everyone's mouths twitched violently, threatening to morph into grins when they heard what Yun Chujio said. Immortal Yun? Why are you so shameless? You look like nothing but a black ball of charcoal. Maybe others should call you Little Goblin instead. Why is Yun Chujio being so abnormal today though? She has always complied with every single one of young Master Moya's demands, hasn't she? Bai Moyu obviously never expected things to go that way either. The idiot was likely still angry about what had happened the day before. Hence, he used a gentle tone and said with a hint of affection in his eyes, Young Jio, don't throw a tantrum. I'll go and see you another day. One Yun Chujio froze, and Bai Moyu could not help but laugh internally when he noticed it. That trick of his had always worked on the little idiot. He was certain that she would definitely leave the restaurant obediently now. Just as Bai Moyu secretly felt pleased with himself, Yun Chujio lowered her head and pretended to puke. Goodness gracious, stop being so disgusting. Can you please direct your horniness to other people in the future and leave me alone? What a scumbag. 3. Bai Moyu froze. Bai Moru also froze. In fact, everyone in the restaurant froze. Could it be that Yun Chujio had gone crazy? She had always liked young Master Moyu, had she not? Why was she repeatedly spouting such harsh words to young Master Moyu today? Bai Moru was the first person to fly into a rage. Yun Chujio, you're a piece of ugly trash. Who's the one who used to follow my elder brother around like a dumb, mangy dog? My elder brother is a soft-hearted person, and he has always taken care of you because you're such a pitiful girl. How could you turn against him and say all these harsh words? What an ungrateful bitch. This time, Bai Moyu did not stop Bai Moru from speaking. How dare Yun Chujio speak in such a manner to him? It was indeed time to teach her a lesson or two. Yun Chujio looked at Bai Moru like she was looking at an idiot. All of a sudden, she climbed onto her chair and stood on it. Bai Moru was shocked, and she could not help but take a step back. Everyone did not know what was going on, and they looked at Yun Chujio curiously. Had Yun Chujio really become a madwoman? Yun Chujio sneered, and there was a solemn expression on her small face. Everyone, today, Yun Chujio would like to make a formal announcement. For some reason, Bai Moyu had an ominous feeling about it. Bai Moyu is a cunning and lowly man. In order to achieve his unspeakable aims, he schemed against me and manipulated me. I was deceived because I was young and immature, and I did a lot of wrong things to the Yun family. Right after Yun Chujio said that, her eyes turned red, and tears flowed down her cheeks like a broken dam. She pretended to look like she was trying to hold back her sorrow. Even though I'm young, I still understand that I should repent since I've done something wrong. The Yun family has raised me, but I repaid their kindness by turning against them. I feel very bad about that, and I regret it very much. I have decided that I will atone for my sins and become a changed person from now on. Starting from today, this scumbag, Bai Moyu, is nothing but my nemesis. He will forever be my enemy. 3. Once Yun Chujio was done speaking, she hopped down from the chair and dashed out of Immortal Gathering Tower with her face covered. For there was a dumbfounded expression on everyone's faces. Chapter 21. Who's paying for the meal? One in everyone's eyes, Yun Chujio ran off in a panic because she was overwhelmed with grief. All of them looked at Bai Moyu, and their gazes were rather thought-provoking. Their eyes also shone with a desire for gossip. Oh my gosh, Yun Chujio just divulged a huge amount of information. A purpose that mustn't be known? Everyone knew that the Bai family and Yun family were enemies, so young Master Moyu definitely had a desire to know something or do something through Yun Chujio. We previously thought that Yun Chujio was the one who hung around young Master Moyu, but now, it turns out that young Master Moyu's the one who's been playing dirty tricks. Oh my goodness, how could he involve an orphan girl in his schemes? How diabolical. They then recalled what happened earlier in the day. Yun Chujio had obviously stated that she was not done eating, but young Master Moyu forced her to leave. It was completely different from what Bai Moru described. That was not Bai Moyu taking care of Yun Chujio, it was clearly Bai Moyu taking advantage of Yun Chujio. At that moment, a waiter from Immortal Gathering Tower suddenly shouted, "That Yun Chujio didn't pay. She ordered all of our restaurant's signature dishes, and they cost a few dozen taels of silver." The waiter could not help but switch his attention to Bai Moyu. Yun Chujio's departure had a lot to do with him, so he could only get the money from him. Young Master Moyu, about that, the waiter was very smart. He did not ask for money, but he also did not finish his sentence. Bai Moyu was extremely angry right then. Why did that stupid Yun Chujio suddenly say those things? Who taught her to do something like that? He was worried about Su Yanren's possible reactions, hence he had to pay attention to her. If it had not been because of that, Bai Moyu would have chased after Chu Yunjio to ask her just what was going on. Bai Moru glared at the waiter. That piece of trash is the one who ate all of this food. What does it have to do with my brother? Scram. At this point in time, the onlookers really wanted to mock the Bai siblings, but they did not dare do so loudly. Nevertheless, their gazes were brimming with scorn, fully conveying their intention to mock the siblings. Just now, Bai Moru rambled on about how young Master Moyu took care of Yun Chujio. Now when it's time to pay for her meal, this Bai Moru is quick to say that they have nothing to do with her. It looks like what Yun Chujio said was true. Young Master Moyu was using Yun Chujio. Moru, stop this nonsense. Waiter, you'll pay for Yun Chujio's meal. Hurry up and clean the table. Bai Moyu felt incredibly gloomy, but he did not show it on his face. Instead, he made himself look like a generous person. Cousin, my mood is ruined. Let's go back home. Su Yenran snorted coldly. She did not care about Bai Moyu's reaction and just proceeded straight to the entrance. Bai Moyu frowned a little, and a slight spark of displeasure shone briefly in his eyes. He threw some pieces of silver to the waiter before he chased after her. Little sister Yenran, Yun Chujio is under the care of the Yun family. Her foster parents died, and I just took pity on her. I did not expect her to misunderstand my intentions and continue bothering me. This time, she must be playing some kind of trick to get my attention. I think she's just pretending to pull away from me. She's really trying to get closer to me. 5. That's true. Big sister Yenran, the people in Yi City all know Yun Chujio. She is just a piece of trash that can't practice cultivation. If it weren't because of my brother's kindness, he wouldn't have bothered himself with that dark and ugly waste of space. Bai Moru chirped up next to them, and her voice was full of disgust. Disdain flashed briefly across Su Yanran's face before it disappeared. The Yun family? The Yun family that has always been against your family? Bai Moyu nodded. Exactly. Oh, Yun Xiaonan, he's the head of the Yun family household, who, by the way, is also at the 6th level in spirit refinement realm. Their strength is on par with our family. Su Yenran now had scorn on her face, but her look of contempt was barely noticeable. He is just at the 6th level in spirit refinement realm, and he can only rule over a small place like Yi City. In Towering Cloud City, he would only be considered to be of average strength. Bai Moyu smiled and said, Towering Cloud City is the capital, so it's only natural that plenty of talented people are gathered there. Bai Moru also spoke up by the side to curry favor. Big sister Yenren, you're right. Even though you're just a year older than I am, you're already at the 5th level in spirit refinement realm. I'm so jealous. Chapter 22. Su Yenran. Once the Bai siblings flattered Su Yenran, she felt that her ruffled feathers had been smoothed over. Cousin, little sister Moru, you don't have to look down on yourselves. You're both already very amazing to be at the level you are in a small place like Yi City. When Bai Moyu heard what Su Yenran said, his expression froze for a moment, and he felt slightly unhappy. If it were not for the fact that he had something to ask of Su Yenran who was in front of him, he would have left in anger a long time ago. Su Yenran was the daughter of Bai Shuyun, Bai Moyu's aunt. The Su family was a big family in Towering Cloud City, the capital of Donghua Nation. Back then, Bai Shuyun had used a lot of methods before she could finally marry into the Su family. Bai Moyu secretly sent a signal to Bai Moru through his gaze, and she understood what he wanted. She then started to butter up to Su Yenran. Big sister Yenran, you've got a point there. Yi City is really too small. I heard that the Falling Clouds sect will begin its decadal recruitment of disciples soon. I wonder if you have any connections that might help a person get in? Su Yenran looked even more arrogant than before. The Falling Clouds sect has always posed strict requirements when it comes to their recruitment. You will need a referrer for registration alone, and the requirements for getting in will be even higher. Is that how it is? Then, my brother and I won't be able to even register. Bai Moru deliberately spoke with a disappointed voice. Su Yenran smiled proudly. If we're talking about other people, then there would be no way for them to get in. But my grandaunt is an elder in the Falling Cloud sect, and she loves me the most. So, if I refer someone to her, forget about getting the rights for registration, it won't even be a problem for me to get that person into the sect. Wow. Big Sister Yenren, you're so great. Bai Moru wore an envious expression before she squeezed out an expectant look. Big Sister Yenran, can you register me and my brother for the recruitment? That won't be a problem. When the time comes, I will register your names for you. Su Yenran said with a smile. She naturally understood that Bai Moyu and his sister had discussed this beforehand. In any case, once her grandfather gave the orders, his mother would have to agree to it. If that was the case, she might as well go with the flow and have these siblings be in her debt. Besides, their affinities were not bad. If they joined the Falling Clouds sect, she could have 2 more helpers. Bai Moyus' eyes sparkled faintly. He had spent so much effort in buttering up to Su Yenran through every means possible because he wanted to make sure that he could enroll in the Falling Clouds sect. As long as he could get into the sect, it would not be impossible for him to reach Spirit Being Realm based on his affinity. Bai Moyu and his sister became more attentive to Su Yenran after their wish was fulfilled. Big Sister Yenran, I know that our mood was ruined by that piece of trash in Immortal Gathering Tower earlier, so let's go to Leisurely House. It's not as famous as Immortal Gathering Tower, but the decor there is quite elegant, Bai Moru said in a fawning tone. Su Yenran pretended to be reserved and nodded. The 3 of them then went to Leisurely House, which was located 2 streets away. Young Master Moyu, ladies, please head to the private room on the 1st floor. A waiter saw them, and he came forward with a hospitable attitude. All right, we'll take Cold Plum Blossom private room, then. The decor there is refreshing and elegant, plus we can still view the scenery through the window, Bai Moyu said calmly. Young Master Moyu, I would suggest that you switch to another room. Golden Autumn Pavilion is also one of our top-grade private rooms, said the waiter in a troubled manner. Bai Moyus' face turned almost as sour as rotten milk. Did some unlucky spirit decide to visit him today? Everything was just not going according to plan. Cousin, my mom always told me how great my grandfather's family in Yi City is. But I never thought that despite being supposedly in power, it would be so hard for you to have a meal in Yi City. When Su Yenran saw how Bai Moyu and his sister kept trying to curry to her favor, she started to show her arrogant and willful nature. Bai Moyu found his ego slightly trampled, and his expression turned even more sour than before. Who is eating in Cold Plum Blossom private room? Tell him to switch to Golden Autumn Pavilion. I will treat him to his meal. Chapter 23, I will torture you to death today. The waiter dared not offend Bai Moyu, so he could only whisper that he would do as he was commanded before he ran up to the 1st floor. A while later, the waiter came back with a troubled look. Why, young Master Moyu, the customer, she refuses to change rooms. Su Yenran snorted coldly. Cousin, I think we can only head back for lunch today. If we continue dawdling around instead of having lunch together, we'll end up having dinner. Does the person know that it's me asking her to change rooms? Bai Moyus' expression was sour like milk that had gone bad for at least a week. He burned with rage, but he could not vent his anger on Su Yenran. Therefore, he vented his anger on the customer in Cold Plum Blossom private room. IT told her, beeped. The waiter looked distressed, as though he had something very inappropriate to say. But what? Tell me honestly. If you hide anything, I will have someone dismantle Leisurely House. Bai Moru felt annoyed too. Usually, in Yi City, her words held weight, and she was always the one giving orders. Yet, ever since Su Yenran came, she had almost become a young maid. The waiter shook with fright. I'll tell you. At first, the customer happily agreed to your request when she heard that someone would pay for her to change rooms. But when she heard that you were the ones paying for her, she immediately changed her mind. Bai Moru instantly erupted like a volcano when she heard those words. She's openly going against the Bai family. I'd like to see just who it is who has a death wish. Bai Moru fiercely rushed up to the 1st floor. The waiter was pale with fright, so he quickly ran to the backyard and looked for the owner of the restaurant. Bai Moru kicked the door of Cold Plum Blossom private room, and when she saw the person inside, She became even angrier. She saw a dark-skinned girl happily gnawing on a drumstick in the private room. Yun Chujio. You again? Are you doing this on purpose? Baimoru demanded viciously. Yun Chujio cast a glance at her. Are you out of your mind? I came here first. Everything works at a first-come, first-served basis, you know. You took over my seat in Immortal Gathering Tower, but I didn't make a fuss about it. Now you followed me here. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? That. Baimoru was so angry that her face turned red. She jumped over and was ready to give Yun Chujio a slap on the face. Yun Chujio cursed up a storm in her heart. Are all the people here sick? Why do they always want to slap someone? Well, screw you. If your hand even touches me, I'll torture you to death today. Have a taste of my hidden weapon. Yun Chujio threw the drumstick in her hand at Baimoru's face. 6. Baimoru was stunned, and she subconsciously dodged it. Yun Chujio quickly moved away and slid behind Baimoru in a flash. Then she kicked the back of Baimoru's knee, and Baimoru fell face first on the floor because she was caught off guard. Yun Chujio tapped a few spots on Baimoru's body, and immediately after, to Baimoru's shock, she found that she was not able to move at all. Yun Chujio picked up a bowl of hot soup from the table, and she poured it all over Baimoru's head. The soup was so hot against her skin that Baimoru screeched like a pig being slaughtered. Although it was not hot enough to disfigure her, a large part of her skin was still scalded red, and a few vegetable leaves also hung off her hair. One Baimoru as well as Su Yenran heard Baimoru's pained shrieks from below, and they quickly ran up. When Yun Chujio heard their footsteps, she sat back in her chair, picked up her chopsticks, and continued eating. Damn it. You've caused me so much trouble in 2 places, and I still haven't filled my stomach. What a loss. When Baimoru saw the situation in the room, he was full of confusion. Moru, what's wrong? Brother. Save me. Save me please. The bitch must have used some kind of unknown dark arts. I couldn't move anymore after she tapped a few spots on my body. Baimoru screamed hysterically. Chapter 24. If I say no? Baimoru stepped toward Baimoru and wanted to help her up, but Baimoru could not even stand. Her body was as stiff as a corpse. Baimoru had intended to let Su Yenran take care of Baimoru, but he never thought that Su Yunran would move back in disgust. She must have found the thought of helping Baimoru incredibly disgusting because she even moved outside the room. So, Baimoru could only let Baimoru lean on him. Yun Chujio. What have you done? Hurry up and treat Moru or else I won't spare you. Yun Chujio bared her teeth. Baimoru, do you have a few screws loose in your head? Baimoru obviously fell down because of her bad eyesight, and she even made my soup bowl topple over. I should be the one who exacting revenge. Sides, I'm famous for being a piece of trash. How would I have the ability to send her sprawling on the ground? One Baimoru had doubts about the situation too. Indeed, Yun Chujio had no spiritual energy, and Moru was at the 3rd level in spirit refinement realm. There was no reason for Yun Chujio to defeat his sister. Brother, do you believe me or that wench? Baimoru shouted with a quivering voice. She was now angry and terrified. Aside from her face, she could not sense her other body parts at that moment. After Baimoru heard what Baimoru said, he glared at Yun Chujio with a dark look. Yun Chujio, I'll give you one last chance. Treat Moru immediately and kneel down to apologize to her. Yun Chujio put down her chopsticks and smiled faintly. And if I say no? Baimoru was stunned. He had never seen Yun Chujio behave in such a way. His impression of Yun Chujio was that she was a gloomy, cowardly, and foolish waste of space. Yet, even though the person in front of him did not have a change in appearance, her overall presence made it seem as if she had changed into another person. She was now like a sharp sword that could be unsheathed at any moment. Baimoru shook his head. The anger must be messing with my head. She's clearly a sorry excuse of a human being without any spiritual energy. That old Yun Xiaotian must have given her some poison or hidden weapons. If you don't do as I say, don't blame me for being merciless and disregarding our relationship. I'll tie you up and go to that old Yun Shaoan to ask for the antidote in exchange for you. Slap, slap. Yun Chujio viciously smacked Bai Moyu twice in the face. I don't care if you talk about me, but how dare you talk trash about my new grandpa? You're asking for death. Here are 2 reasons why Bai Moyu was slapped by Yun Chujio. He did not expect Yun Chujio to be that fast. He was holding Bai Moru. Yun Chujio had used up all of her strength to deliver those 2 slaps, which was why they delivered so much force that Bai Moyu practically saw stars. For a period of time, he did not manage to register what had just happened. Yun Chujio cast a glance at Su Yenran, who was still outside, and took the opportunity to grab something from Bai Moyu and Bai Morris waists. It was their money pouches. Once she grabbed those items, she jumped down from the window of the private room. The instant Yun Chujio landed on the ground, she started to cry and wail. Arg! Murder! Help me! That scumbag, Bai Moyu is trying to kill me to silence me. Help! Help! That bastard Bai Moyu wants to kill me because I revealed his true colors in Immortal Gathering Tower. Yun Chujio kept running with her short legs while shouting at the top of her lungs. Everyone on the street looked incredibly stupefied, and a second later, they turned into gossipmongers and started to discuss the matter with gusto. Oh gosh, I never knew that young Master Moyu was someone like that. You really can't judge a book by its cover, huh? You don't say. I always thought that Yun Chujio was the one bothering him. However, at the end of the day, he was just trying to take advantage of Yun Chujio. Now that he's done using her, he actually wants to kill her to silence her? How despicable. Exactly. How could he use such a dirty method to treat a young orphan? True. How shameless. When Yun Chujio heard the discussion from the crowd, she silently clenched the stolen money pouches hidden in her sleeve, and she felt delighted. She began running even faster. Chapter 25. Doing a great job. Yun Chujio ran back happily to the Yun residence, and she was so happy that she could not even hide the smile on her face. Thank you for your hard work. Go and get yourself some tea. Yun Chujio passed a small chunk of silver to the guards and skipped happily into the courtyard. Both the guards thanked her repeatedly while they thought, is the 9th young mistress possessed or something? She has given us money for 2 straight days, and she's even been very generous with the amount. When one of the guards noticed that Yun Chujio had walked away, he whispered, Luo Fan, the 9th young mistress has been behaving strangely ever since she returned yesterday. Zhang Yuan told me that yesterday, the 9th young mistress even beat up the 2nd young master. What? The 9th young mistress beat up the 2nd young master? How is that possible? I thought that the 9th young mistress isn't able to practice cultivation? The eyes of the guard named Luo Fan were wide open, and he thought that he had to be hearing things. It's true. Zhang Yuan's not the only one who saw it. Many people in the residence saw it too. The 9th young mistress told us not to talk about it. She asked us to say that the 2nd young master fell down on his own. Lu Dong, based on what you're saying, are you telling me that the 9th young mistress has been hiding her skills all this while? Luo Fan still found Lu Dong's words unbelievable. Who knows? We just need to mind our own business and not offend the 9th young mistress. I heard that the 2nd young master screamed horrifically like a pig being led to slaughter. Lu Dong could not help but tremble for a moment. While both of them gossiped about this softly, Yun Chujio had skipped happily to the spot outside Yun Xiaoshan's courtyard. Grandpa! Grandpa! Young Jiao is here to visit you. Yun Chujio started to shout even when she was still far away. The corners of Yun Xiaoshan's lips twitched. Aren't the changes in young Jiao a bit too much? She was a quiet girl last time, but now, she's as energetic as a bunny. Come in. Yun Chujio skipped happily into the house and proudly said, Grandpa, I did a great job today. Oh, what is it? Yun Xiaotian tossed the question out casually without giving it much thought. He did not think Yun Chujio could do anything amazing. I revealed Sleazebag by Moya's true colors, and I even poured hot soup on by Mora's face. You'll never guess just how pathetic she looked at that time. What? You fool. You've caused a mess. Bai Moyu is at the 4th level in Spirit Refinement Realm, and Bai Moru is at the 3rd level in spirit refinement realm. If you really annoy them, what would happen to you if they injure you? Yun Xiaotian shouted. Yun Chujio was stunned for a moment, but immediately after, warmth filled her heart. My newfound grandfather keeps worrying about my safety, huh? One grandpa, don't worry. I know my limits. I tapped a few of Bai Morris acupuncture points, and she's currently as stiff as a block of wood. Grandpa, when the Bai family comes over, he'll handle them and I promise you, he'll crush their ego. Ha! Yun Chujio then narrated the entire process with wild gestures. One Yun Xiaotian could not help but sigh when he saw how lively Yun Chujio's face was. It was no wonder why there were now rumors circulating around, saying that she had been enlightened overnight and become very knowledgeable. Be that as it may, young Jiao had changed too much. The previous young Jiao would not be able to think of so many dirty tricks as well as schemes even if someone held a knife over her throat and forced her to come up with them. After the mess Yun Chujio created, the rumors of young Jiao in Yi City could start to change. 2. I thought that the acupuncture points you sealed would be automatically unsealed 4 hours later. Still, when Yun Xiaotian saw how lively Yun Chujio was, he was finally able to relax. That depends on the strength and technique. The acupuncture points I sealed on Bai Moru will only be unsealed after 3 days at least. Grandpa, it's time for us to empty the Bai family's pockets. After we cheat them of their money, we can share it among ourselves. Let's not give it to anyone else. Yun Chujio tried to butter up her grandfather. Tumph, you rascal. You make me sound like I'm some money-hungry madman. Ahem, then let's do an 80-20 split. It'll take 8/10 of the money we're going to steal from them, and you can take 2/10. After all, you don't use that much money since you're young. 14 Yun Chujio found herself speechless. Chapter 26. I came for class. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes. So, we've been beating around the bush for so long because my new grandpa is also a money-loving bastard. Grandpa, I'm the one who came out with this idea and sealed Bai Morris acupuncture points. Isn't 2/10 too little? At the very least, I should get half of the money, right? Why does a young lady like you need that much money? 30-70. The most I can accept is 30-70. Yun Xiaotian glared at her. 50-50. Let's make it 50-50, or else, I'm going on strike. What are you going to do then? Yun Chujio put her arms akimbo while widening her eyes. Grandpa, even if we're relatives, we have to make things clear when it comes to money. It's a matter of principle. 2. When Yun Xiaotian saw that Yun Chujio was as angry as a soaked kitten, he was amused. Young Jiao, tell me, why do you need that much money? If it's reasonable, forget 50-50, it'll be fine with even giving you 7/10 of the money. Yun Chujio stretched out a dark hand, bent her fingers, and said, First, I love delicious food, but the food at the restaurants are so expensive. 2. Yun Xiaotian was so angry that he nearly got a stroke. Look at this girl, she's hopeless. She only thinks about food. 1. When Yun Xiaotian was about to scold Yun Chujio gave a mischievous smile and said, Second, I need to buy you gifts since you treated me so well, Grandpa. I want to show you my respect. You won't like it if I give you junk, right? 2. Yun Xiaoshan's anger instantly disappeared, and he felt so happy he was at cloud 9. If he did not hold back, he might have started laughing out loud in satisfaction. Yun Chujio peeked at Yun Xiaoshan's expression, and she felt incredibly smug. You might be a cunning old fox, but you can't escape from me, the hunter. Oho. 3rd, my uncle, aunt, 4th brother, 5th sister, and young 10th will also need gifts. I've done many wrong things in the past, so I need to make up for my mistakes, right? Grandpa, asking for half of the money isn't too much now, don't you think? Of course it isn't. Young Jiao, I don't want their money anymore, you can keep all of it. Yun Xiaoshan's heart burst with joy after listening to Yun Chujio's sweet talk. Right now, forget about the silver, he would not hesitate in offering his life if Yun Chujio wanted it now. Grandpa, that won't do. I'm still young, and it wouldn't be good if I don't control my spending. You can keep the other half for me. When I get married, you can use it for my dowry. Yun Chujio grinned and said impishly. One Yun Xiaotian laughed at Yun Chujio's sweet words. All right. Then, I'll keep it for you first. Once you find your ideal husband, all of this will become your dowry. Yun Chujio continued acting like a spoiled but cute princess for a little while longer before she skipped off to look for Yun Chu. And while she scampered off, she started making sarcastic quips in her heart. You think this is easy for me? My original persona made too many mistakes, and I have to seize every opportunity to clear my name. Now, my new grandpa is basically on my side now, so I have to go to my eldest uncle's house to get his affection. When Yun Chujio frolicked all the way to Yun Chu's courtyard, she learned that Yun Chu had gone to her classes. It was only at that moment that Yun Chujio suddenly remembered that the Yun family had a cultivation hall. Aside from emergency matters in the family or resting days, all young members in the Yun family must attend classes in the cultivation hall. Since Yun Chujio was absolutely hopeless when it came to cultivation and was constantly busy with trying to please Bai Moyu, she had never been to the cultivation hall before. Yun Chujio blinked and ran off to reach the area outside the cultivation hall. The one who was looking after the cultivation hall was the fifth elder of the Yun family, Yun Xiaowen. When he saw Yun Chujio coming over, he could not help but frown. Yun Chujio, why are you here at the cultivation hall? I'm here for classes. Aren't all the disciples of the Yun family able to come for classes? Yun Chujio tilted her head to the side and asked seriously. What? Chapter 27. Young Jio, do you have a question? The fifth elder found himself speechless for a moment. But as an elder, it would not look good for him to embarrass a junior, so he waved his hand. Go on in. But don't make a mess. Yun Chujio could not help but did a secret eye roll. Do I look like someone who just fools around all the time? Yun Chujio walked into the cultivation hall with a swagger, and as soon as she entered, she attracted everyone's attention. Oh, would you look at that? Yun Chujio, what are you doing here? Could it be that the ultimate trash of Yi City cultivates now? A beautiful girl mocked. Yun Chujio looked at her. She was the third mistress' daughter, Yun Chuki, and she was the seventh child in the family. She looked down on the original persona and usually bullied her quite a lot. Chuki. An elegant girl glared at Yun Chuki before she spoke softly to Yun Chujio. Younger sister Jio, why did you come into the cultivation hall? Why aren't you outside? Yun Chujio's eyes flashed. Compared to Yun Chuki, this Yun Chushan is even worse. Yun Chushan was the third eldest child in the family, and she was Yun Chuer's younger sister. The original persona actually thought that Yun Chushan was a good person, but many things that happened to her were because of Yun Chushan's bad ideas, and her original persona would always end up as the scapegoat. Yun Chushan had also been involved in how Yun Chujio had ended up being so completely infatuated with Bai Moyu. When Yun Chushan saw that Yun Chujio was not talking and was only staring at her with a pair of eyes as dark as the night sky, she could not help but panic a little. Younger sister Jio, can you hear me? Yun Chujio yawned. Well, I have nothing to do, and since I have nothing to do, I decided to come and see you all. Continue training, just ignore me. Who do you think you are? You came to see us? Why would we need trash like you to see us? Third sister, just ignore her. Yun Chuki glared at Yun Chujio angrily and dragged Yun Chushan to the side. Yun Chujio pouted and got close to Yun Chu, who was meditating and training. My dearest fifth sister, I'm here. Yun Chu's eyelids twitched slightly. Since you're here, just sit down and behave. The fourth elder will teach us in a while. The fourth elder is the most impartial and stern elder of all of our teachers. You must absolutely not cause any trouble. One Yun Chujio nodded repeatedly. Fifth sister, don't worry, you know how I am. I'm the most obedient person around. I won't cause any trouble. Two Yun Chu rubbed her forehead. It's precisely because I know just how you are that I'm afraid you might stir up trouble, all right? Yun Chujio looked around curiously. This cultivation hall was actually just an empty big room. Including Yun Chujio, There were 9 disciples of the Yun family here. And among the younger generation of the Yun family, only Yun Chuer was not around. Yun Chujio did not care if others found her an eyesore either. She just nodded and smiled at everyone, creeping them out. This Yun Chujio is normally gloomy, so what exactly is she up to today? All the muscles in Yun Chushi's small face tensed up, and he glared viciously at Yun Chujio. But Yun Chujio just stuck her tongue out at him. Yun Chushir found himself stunned speechless. At this moment, Yun Xiaohai, the 4th elder of the Yun family, came in. The 4th elder saw Yun Chujio immediately, and he was puzzled. Why is Yun Chujio here? What is she up to today? The 4th elder gave Yun Chujio a warning look. But to his surprise, Yun Chujio just smiled sweetly at him, and her dark face actually looked a little pleasing to the eye at the moment. The 4th elder could not help but be stunned. He did not realize before that young Jio had a pair of good-looking eyes. They were clear and bright, like a clear spring. Though this was supposed to be a class, the learning progress of the disciples of the Yun family was different. In fact, most of the time, the disciples would just train on their own, and the elders were just responsible for answering their questions. Today was no exception. After the 4th elder came in, he sat cross-legged at the forefront of the hall and waited for the disciples to ask him questions. But there was no way Yun Chujio would know about this process. She just widened her eyes idiotically and stared at the 4th elder. The 4th elder was a little baffled by Yun Chujio's action. Young Jio, do you have a question? Yun Chujio was confused. What's happening now? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.